Every day, the world produces noise, but only a few moments produce meaning. Information is everywhere. Understanding is rare. Because facts alone do not enlighten, context does, analysis does, perspective does. Welcome to Aneke TV, where news is not merely reported, it is examined. Where conversations are not merely held, they are elevated. Where stories are not merely told, they are understood. In governance, in business, in society, in the global arena, clarity is power, discernment is advantage, awareness is responsibility. This is broadcasting with purpose, journalism with depth, programming with intellect. Nigeria, the world, we are live. Aneke TV, broadcasting daily, informing minds, shaping perspective.
Good Friday, in Christian belief, is a sacred remembrance of the crucifixion and death of Jesus Christ. It represents the central mystery of the Christian faith, that through suffering and sacrifice, humanity is offered redemption and reconciliation with God. Good Friday signifies sacrificial love. Christians believe that Jesus willingly gave his life for the forgiveness of sins, making the cross not just an instrument of death, but a symbol of divine mercy and grace. It also represents atonement, the idea that Christ's death bridges the gap between humanity and God. In this understanding, justice and mercy meet at the cross. Sin is acknowledged, yet forgiveness is made possible. Spiritually, Good Friday reflects humility and obedience. Jesus' submission, even unto death, is seen as the ultimate example of surrender to God's will. It redefines power not as force or control, but as love expressed through sacrifice. Finally, it represents hope through suffering, though marked by pain and sorrow. Good Friday is not the end of the story. It points towards restoration and renewal, reminding believers that darkness can give way to light and death can lead to life. In essence, Good Friday is a profound declaration that love, even in suffering, has the power to redeem, restore, and transform.
This cross is not a place of only celebration at Easter. For me, it's about the cross. And it's not a wooden cross. It's not a cross that is built with cement. It's a cross that we ought to know today that is a place of fire. What did I say? It's a place of fire. It's not only a symbol of suffering. Yes, it is suffering. But it's a place of fire where heaven confronted our sin. Let the cross have a different meaning this season to you. Mercy is released because you get to the cross. Grace is available. Grace. What you don't deserve, the cross makes it available. Yes. Justice is satisfied. And it's a place of transformation. If you will understand what the cross means, it changes your life.
So this whole week is called Holy Monday, Holy Tuesday, Holy Wednesday, Holy Thursday, Holy Friday. Then Good Friday, then Holy Saturday, and then you have the Easter. It's time to take account, step back, introspection. This is a time that Jesus is going to die. And it's a time that we are going to really think deeply of the sacrifice that Jesus had to make for the salvation of mankind. So it is a time we too should begin to think of the lessons of Easter, the lessons of sacrifice, the lessons of love, the lessons of not continuing to do the very things that took Jesus to the cross. Because if Jesus died for the sin of the world, how can you then continue to indulge in sin? Do you want to crucify him a second time? Jesus cannot go to the cross a second time. So this is the time to avoid all forms of sin. And in our country today, we are really in trouble.
It is called Good Friday because of the significance. And it's important we call it good, even though somebody died. But it is in that death that we have all the goodness of God transmitted to us by grace through the death of Jesus Christ. So it's Good Friday, especially for born-again believers. They are not just historical events, but they are deeply personal, spiritual realities that define identity, salvation, and our daily living. So the Good Friday is the day when the Lord Jesus Christ was crucified. And one of the very profound statements he made is what we found in John chapter 19, and where he told us, verse 30, it is finished. In other words, the penalty for our sin, the sacrifice for our sin, all that God required to count us holy, righteous people before him, a holy God, that he has paid it all. And it is not a question of what you get by rituals or by sacrifices or what any other person can do. There's only one Lamb of God that takes away the sins of the world, and that is Jesus Christ. And it's on Good Friday, oh, glorious Good Friday, that he was crucified on that rugged cross to secure our freedom.
Jesus died, he didn't die for nothing. He died to save the world. He died to save us. Whosoever believeth in him shall not perish. That's what the Bible said, John 3:16, but have eternal life. And so in this season, we call on Nigerians to draw near to God. Draw close to God. Imbibe these lessons that Jesus taught us. The lesson of servant leadership, the lessons of sacrifice, the lessons of love, the lessons of living in peace one with another. These are the things that, the virtues that Jesus epitomized. And these are the things we too need to be sure that in this season, we, as a people of God, live our lives through them also.
But if you are a born-again child of God, I mean born-again child of God, not church-going. Church-going is different from being born again. Churchianity is different from Christianity. If you are truly born again, you've given your life to Jesus through the confession of your sins to him and personally inviting Jesus into your life to be your Lord and your Savior, then you can rejoice that there was a day called Good Friday. And thank God it is Good Friday for as many as believe.
Morning headlines before you step out. Midday updates while you work. Evening analysis when the day winds down. Wherever life takes you, Aneke TV keeps you informed, connected, and ahead. Aneke TV. Move with the world.
This is the business desk on Aneke TV, bringing you a sharp look at the numbers that matter with the local market, moving and shaping the landscape this Friday, being the Good Friday. We're here turning our focus to global stage, where Brent cruise dramatic surge back towards 110, yes, $110, is set to redefine the energy landscape from the resilience of the naira to the shifting indices of the Nigerian exchange. We'll break down the trends, driving your wealth and the economy. I'm Uche Osai. Let's get down to business. And starting from the Nigerian Stock Exchange performance yesterday, Thursday, April 2nd, 2026, the Nigerian equity market closed on a positive note, continuing a recovery trend. And the market breadth was positive, with 34 gainers outshining 24 losers. The session was notably driven by gains in the communication services and energy sector, while the banking and insurance sectors faced some downward pressure due to profit taking. Now, let's quickly take a look at the top 5 gainers for yesterday, and starting from Austin Lars, which yesterday opened trading at 4 naira, 1 kobo, equally made a change of 9.98 positive adjustment, closing at 4 naira 41 kobo. And we are seeing Transferes, yes, Transferes closed trading yesterday at 2 naira 84 kobo, making a positive adjustment of a plus 9.65%, yes, closing at 2 naira 84 kobo. And we are seeing TIP, yes, they opened trading at 19 naira 80 kobo, making a positive adjustment of a 9.60% to close at 21 naira 70 kobo. And we're looking at Multiverse, which closed trading yesterday at 20 naira 15 kobo, having opened the market at 18 naira 35 kobo, made a positive adjustment of a positive 9.81%. And NACO, yes, NACO equally yesterday bullish as well, made a positive change of 8.83% to close at 189 naira 90 kobo, having opened trading yesterday at 174 naira 50 kobo. Now let's quickly take a look at the top 5 losers. Looking at the top 5 losers, we can tell you that John Hurt opened trading yesterday at 17 naira 15 kobo, closing at 15 naira 45 kobo in the dip of a 9.91%. Cutis is another stock that opened at 3 naira 50 kobo, equally making a dip or negative dip of 8.29% to close at 3 naira 21 kobo. We are seeing International Energies, which opened trading at 3 naira 55 kobo, making a negative dip of a 6.48% to close at 3 naira 32 kobo. And we are seeing another stock here, and that is a Sterling. Sterling yesterday opened at 8 naira 5 kobo, making a negative adjustment of a 4.97 to close at 7 naira 65 kobo. And then when we look at the all share index, the market sustained its momentum above the 200,000 point mark with a little bit of the year-to-date returns hovering around 29.3%. And then we'll quickly take a look at sector performances, where we can tell you that the communication service sector, which is led by MTN, and the energy led by Seplat, were the primary drivers of the market appreciation yesterday. And then we are looking at a corporate news that is featuring in, where we are told that GT Grantee Bank, Grantee Trust Holding, proposed a final dividend for 2025 financial year payable on April 28, 2026, which had helped maintain the investors' interest in the financial market. And this is the much we can give you on the market operations yesterday. But do remember that due to the the global markets and equally the Nigerian market will be on holiday, due to the Good Friday. Yes, Good Friday is a public holiday, and trading will also remain suspended until Easter Monday, April 6, with normal session resuming on Tuesday, April 7. But wait for us later today, where we'll give you in-depth analysis of the markets as at yesterday, and then we'll take it off from there. Thank you for joining us. I still remain Uche Osai. Invest wisely.
In a world that never stands still, where stories break in seconds and moments shape history, one station keeps you connected to your nation, to the continent, to the world.
From breaking news to powerful stories, from business and politics to culture, lifestyle and entertainment, we inform, we inspire, we keep you ahead.
This is more than television. This is your window to everywhere that matters.
Aneke TV. Move with the world.
In a world that never stands still, where stories break in seconds and moments shape history, one station keeps you connected to your nation, to the continent, to the world.
From breaking news to powerful stories, from business and politics to culture, lifestyle and entertainment, we inform, we inspire, we keep you ahead.
This is more than television. This is your window to everywhere that matters.
Aneke TV. Move with the world.
In a world that never stands still, where stories break in seconds and moments shape history, one station keeps you connected to your nation, to the continent, to the world.
From breaking news to powerful stories, from business and politics to culture, lifestyle and entertainment, we inform, we inspire, we keep you ahead.
This is more than television. This is your window to everywhere that matters.
Aneke TV. Move with the world.
My name is Dr. Emmanuel Ihechi Asonye. I am the CEO of Omenka App LLC. I created Omenka App for the preservation of Igbo language and culture. Omenka App was established in New Mexico and it is headquartered in Albuquerque. But currently we are also being registered in Nigeria. We have a website. We are also on social media because my app is primarily for the Igbo community. In 2006, something significant happened among the Igbo community. UNESCO predicted that Igbo language was going to go into extinction, and that was because Igbo people are one of the most traveled people in the whole world. So the more children are born outside of Igbo land, the more they get disconnected. The app is on iOS, it's also on Android. Access the website and download the app from there. And over 2,000 people are using the app right now. But there's an app that will teach you about Igbo culture, Igbo people. We have Igbo poems, we have riddles and jokes, we have Igbo proverbs, then we have the word section where you are going to search Igbo words. Whatever word that you can find in English, you want to make sure it is found in the app in Igbo language. And I encourage everybody from their communities, you can do what we're doing in Omenka app with your own language and with your own culture. Do not allow your culture or your language to die.
Good morning and welcome to News Around the Globe on Aneke TV. I'm Good Hope Chukuma. Glad to have you join us. Headlines. President Tinubu orders deployment of AI-powered surveillance to curb plateau killings. Court of Appeal upholds ruling restricting National Broadcasting Commission from imposing fines on broadcasters. On the foreign scene, tensions rise as Donald Trump signals possibility of prolonged Iran conflict. On business, Naira records slight depreciation ahead of Easter holiday. Now the news in details. President Bola Tinubu has directed the immediate deployment of 5,000 AI-powered surveillance cameras across Plateau State to address persistent security challenges. The directive was issued during a town hall meeting in Jos following a Palm Sunday attack that claimed over 27 lives. The Minister of Communications, Innovations and Digital Economy, Bosun Tijani, confirmed that implementation will commence in Jos, leveraging existing smart surveillance models already operational in Lagos and Enugu states. The President also instructed the Inspector General of Police and the Chief of Defense Staff to intensify efforts to identify and apprehend perpetrators of the attack, stressing the need for swift justice. He assured affected families of federal support and ordered the constitution of a committee, including the Plateau State Governor and the Humanitarian Affairs Ministry, to assess losses and recommend compensation measures. In the meantime, some residents of Plateau State have expressed dissatisfaction with President Bola Tinubu following his condolence visit after the Palm Sunday killings in Jos North local government area. The president addressed stakeholders at Yakubu Gowon Airport in Hipang rather than visiting the attack site at Gari Yawawe in Agwan Rukuba, where over 30 persons were reportedly killed. Some residents criticized the approach, describing it as lacking empathy and distancing leadership from victims directly affected by the violence. Public reactions on social media indicate that many expected a hospital visit or direct engagement with affected communities to demonstrate solidarity and compassion. Meanwhile, the Chief of Army Staff, General Waidi Shaibu, has approved the deployment of 850 additional troops to Plateau State following renewed violence in the region. The reinforcement comes after the March 29th attack in Angwan Rukuba, just north, where over 28 people lost their lives. Addressing troops at the Joint Task Force headquarters in Jos, the Army Chief charged personnel to maintain discipline and professionalism while executing Operation Enduring Peace. The deployment is aimed at strengthening security presence, improving rapid response capability, and dismantling criminal elements, with authorities urging residents to cooperate with security agencies. In a related development, the Enugu State Police Command has disbursed over 52.9 million naira to families of deceased officers as part of activities marking National Police Day 2026. The Commissioner of Police, Mr. Mamman Bitrus Giwa, presented the checks on behalf of the Inspector General of Police, Olatunji Ruwan Desu. He urged beneficiaries to utilize the funds responsibly to support their households while reaffirming the force's commitment to welfare. The event concluded a series of activities including community engagement and public sensitization campaigns aimed at strengthening police-community relations. Away from that, President Bola Tinubu has arrived in Lagos State to observe the Easter holiday following his condolence visit to Plateau State over recent attacks. The president landed at the Murtala Mohammed International Airport, Ikeja, where he was received by Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu and senior government officials. During his stay, he is scheduled to inaugurate key infrastructure projects including the Ojota-Upebi Link Bridge, a geographic information system facility, and a school complex. The president is also expected to visit Ogun State to commission the Gateway International Cargo Airport and other projects aimed at boosting economic development. Also, the federal government has opened the 15-kilometer section of the 9-mile Ababa stretch of the Enugu-Onitsha highway to ease Easter travel. The Minister of Works, Senator David Umahi, said the intervention is part of efforts to reduce travel time and improve road safety across the Southeast Corridor. The project, now about 97% complete, adopts reinforced concrete technology expected to enhance durability and longevity compared to traditional asphalt. Authorities say the full reconstruction, valued at over 350 billion naira, will be completed by 2026 with additional infrastructure upgrades ongoing across the region. To some political matters, The African Democratic Congress, ADC, has called for the resignation of the chairman of the Independent National Electoral Commission, George Amopiton, over allegations of bias. ADC National Chairman Senator David Mack accused the commission of undermining opposition parties ahead of the 2027 general elections. Aneke, however, denied the claims, stating that its actions were in compliance with a court of appeal ruling to maintain legal status quo. The commission reaffirmed its neutrality and commitment to a multi-party system, citing ongoing electoral preparations and party registrations. Meanwhile, the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, has rejected calls for the resignation of its chairman, Professor George Amopiton, describing such demands as unfounded. In a statement, Chief Press Secretary Adedayo Oketola said the commission acted within the law in complying with a recent Court of Appeal judgment. INEC noted that adherence to judicial directives is necessary to avoid legal complications experienced in previous electoral cases. The commission maintained that its decisions are guided strictly by constitutional provisions and due process. The Court of Appeal in Abuja has upheld a federal high court judgment restraining the National Broadcasting Commission, NBC, from imposing fines on broadcast stations. Delivering the lead judgment, Justice Oyebiola Oyewumi set aside fines earlier imposed on 5 stations for alleged breaches of the broadcasting code. The panel, led by Justice Abba Mohammed, ruled in favor of Media Rights Agenda, which challenged the legality of the sanctions. The court affirmed that the NBC lacks the statutory authority to impose such fines, reinforcing judicial oversight on regulatory actions within the broadcasting sector. News around the globe is coming to you live from Aneke TV. Remember, you can stay connected with us on all social media platforms, Facebook and YouTube, all at Aneke TV. Now a quick recap of the major stories making the news. President Tinubu orders deployment of AI surveillance to curb plateau killings. Court of Appeal affirms ruling barring NBC from imposing fines on broadcasters. Coming up shortly, on the foreign scene, tensions heightened as Trump signals prolonged Iran conflict. On business, Naira records slight decline ahead of Easter holiday. We'll be right back shortly. 7 days, countless moments, stories that shape the week. From decisions in the corridors of power to developments affecting everyday lives. From moments of challenge to stories of resilience and progress. This is where the week comes into focus. Week in retrospect, only on Aneke TV. Welcome back. The United Nations Economic Commission for Africa has warned that African countries risk falling behind in the global artificial intelligence race without urgent investment in digital infrastructure. A report released in Morocco indicates that the continent currently hosts less than 1% of the world's data centers. The Commission urged governments to explore alternative financing options, including pension funds and sovereign wealth funds, while strengthening domestic revenue mobilization to support large-scale digital investments. It stressed that reliable energy systems and data infrastructure are critical to achieving economic sovereignty and reducing dependence on external technological systems. The report further advocated for skills development and full implementation of the African Continental Free Trade Area to enable Africa transition from raw material exports to high-value manufacturing and innovation. Argentina has expelled Iran's charge d'affaires, Mohsen Tehrani, giving him 48 hours to leave the country amid escalating diplomatic tensions. Foreign Minister Pablo Coelho declared the diplomat persona non grata following accusations from Tehran against President Javier Milei. The Argentine government described the allegations as false and offensive, insisting they undermine the integrity of the country's leadership. The development follows Argentina's recent designation of the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps as a terrorist group, signaling a shift in its foreign policy posture. The Greek government is considering a nationwide ban on social media use for children under the age of 15 as part of efforts to address digital addiction. Prime Minister Kyriakos Mitsotakis indicated that the policy would align with similar measures in other countries aimed at protecting minors from online harm. Authorities cited rising cases of cyberbullying and increased exposure of children to harmful digital content as key drivers behind the proposed legislation. Despite strong public support, concerns remain over enforcement and effectiveness, with some stakeholders advocating for increased parental control measures instead. The Nigerian naira depreciated slightly at the official foreign exchange market, closing at 1,380.79 naira to the United States dollar. Data from the Central Bank of Nigeria shows the currency weakening by 2.09 naira compared to the previous day's rate. In contrast, the naira appreciated at the parallel market, gaining 5 naira to trade at 1,415 naira per dollar. Analysts attribute the fluctuations to seasonal demand pressures and broader macroeconomic factors affecting liquidity in the foreign exchange market. President Bola Tinubu has appointed Shuaib Aliyu as Executive Secretary of the Petroleum Technology Development Fund. The appointment follows the resignation of Ahmed Aminu, who is preparing to contest the Adamawa State governorship election. In a related development, the president approved a second term for Sule Abdulaziz as managing director of the Transmission Company of Nigeria. Presidential spokesperson Bayo Onanuga said the appointments are aimed at strengthening Nigeria's energy sector and enhancing institutional performance. Now in sports, the Nigeria Football Federation has confirmed that the Super Eagles will embark on an international tour of Europe in June. Nigeria is scheduled to face Poland on June 3rd at the PGE Narodi Stadium in Warsaw before taking on Portugal on June 10th. The fixtures are part of preparations for upcoming international competitions and are expected to test the team against top-level opposition. The Super Eagles will also defend their title at the Unity Cup in London later in May as part of a broader competitive schedule. Lagos State Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu has announced a 200 million naira support package for autism advocacy and caregiver training. The funds will be shared between the Lagos State Office for Disability Affairs and the Kenya Yachukwu Foundation. The governor made the announcement during World Autism Awareness Day, where he honored teenager Kanyachukwu Tabo Okeke for his achievements. Officials say the initiative is aimed at improving support systems for persons with autism and expanding access to specialized care. Now in entertainment, Nollywood actress Toyin Abraham has urged her supporters to remain focused amid controversy involving fellow actress Funke Akindele. The appeal follows a viral video showing an apparent snub at a public event, which sparked widespread reactions on social media. The situation escalated after both parties disengaged from each other online, drawing comments from several industry figures. Despite mediation efforts, the actress has shifted attention to her upcoming film project, urging fans to prioritize her professional work over the dispute. And finally, before we go on news around the globe, a recap of our top stories. President Bola Tinubu has ordered the deployment of AI-powered surveillance systems to Plateau State as part of measures to curb persistent killings, while directing security chiefs to intensify efforts to apprehend perpetrators. The Court of Appeal in Abuja has upheld a federal high court judgment restraining the National Broadcasting Commission from imposing fines on broadcast stations, reaffirming limits to the Commission's regulatory powers. On the foreign scene, the United States President Donald Trump has signaled the possibility of a prolonged conflict involving Iran, raising fresh global security concerns. On the business front, data from the Central Bank of Nigeria (CBN) indicates that the naira recorded a slight depreciation at the official market ahead of the Easter holiday period, reflecting ongoing pressures in the foreign exchange market. That's news around the globe on Aneke TV. For more news and live updates, follow us across all social media platforms, Facebook and YouTube. all at Aneke TV. I'm Good Hope Chukuma, thanking you for watching. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Need advert placements, coverage for events, or the latest news stories? Call 070-3043-7110 right now. Aneke TV, move with the world.
My name is Dr. Emmanuel Ihechi Asonye. I am the CEO of Omenka App LLC. I created Omenka App for the preservation of Igbo language and culture. Omenka App was established in New Mexico, and it is headquartered in Albuquerque. But currently we are also being registered in Nigeria. We have a website. We are also on social media, because my app is primarily for the Igbo community. In 2006, something significant happened among the Igbo community. UNESCO predicted that Igbo language was going to go into extinction, and that was because Igbo people are one of the most traveled people in the whole world. So the more children are born outside of Igbo land, the more they get disconnected. The app is on iOS, it's also on Android. Access the website and download the app from there. And over 2,000 people are using the app right now. But there's an app that will teach you about Igbo culture, Igbo people. We have Igbo poems, we have riddles and jokes, we have Igbo proverbs, then we have the word section where you are going to search Igbo words. Whatever word that you can find in English, you want to make sure it is found in the app in Igbo language. And I encourage everybody from their communities, you can do what we're doing in Omenka app with your own language and with your own culture. Do not allow your culture or your language to die.
Across Nigeria, from bustling cities to quiet rural communities, one institution has endured the test of time: the traditional leadership. Long before modern governance structures emerged, these institutions were the heartbeat of society, providing leadership, justice, and social cohesion in ways that remain indispensable to this day. Traditional institutions are not merely ceremonial. They are custodians of Nigeria's rich and diverse cultural heritage. From the Obas of Yoruba land, the Emirs of the North, to the Igwe and Obi of Igbo land, traditional rulers preserve centuries of customs, language, festivals, and rituals. They ensure that the stories, values, and identity of their people are not lost in a rapidly changing world. What sets these institutions apart is their organic legitimacy. Unlike elected officials whose authority depends on periodic votes, traditional rulers derive their influence from ancestry, community consent, and deeply rooted cultural norms. This legacy makes them trusted arbiters, moral authorities, and stabilizing forces within their communities. Their position above partisan politics allows them to mediate dispute and guide society with a unique combination of wisdom and authority. At the grassroots level, traditional institutions are indispensable for governance and social order. They resolve dispute, manage land and chieftaincy matters, and acts as intermediaries between local communities and government policy. In rural areas, where former structures are often distant or overstretched, the presence of these leaders ensures continuity, fairness, and accessibility in governance. Beyond mediation, traditional rulers are catalysts for development. They mobilize communities for education, healthcare, and infrastructure projects, while acting partnerships from governments and private entities. Their influence ensures that development initiatives are participatory, culturally appropriate, and sustainable. In this way, traditional leadership becomes a force for progress as well as preservation. Traditional institutions also play a vital role in maintaining security by leveraging local knowledge and community networks. Rulers provide essential intelligence and oversight, collaborating with security agencies to prevent and mitigate conflicts. Their involvement strengthens community resilience and reinforces the social contract between citizens and the state. Equally important is the moral and ethical dimension of traditional leadership. These institutions instill values of respect, integrity, communal responsibility, and peaceful coexistence. In a society grappling with ethical and social challenges, the guidance of traditional rulers remains a vital instrument for fostering discipline and virtue. In a nation as diverse as Nigeria, traditional institutions serve as a bridges of unity. They manage ethnic and cultural diversity, promote dialogue and encourage mutual respect, while preserving distinct local identities. Through their wisdom, they help maintain harmony and stability across communities that might otherwise be divided. The traditional institution is far from a relic of the past. It is a dynamic, enduring pillar of Nigerian society, a custodian of heritage, a mediator of peace, a driver of development, and a moral compass for generations. To harness Nigeria's full potential, there must be a deliberate integration of these institutions into governance and national development strategies. For in preserving the past, guiding the present, and shaping the future, traditional leadership remains at the very heart of Nigerian life.
Every second, the world changes, markets rise, leaders speak, stories unfold. To keep up, you don't just need news, you need clarity, you need speed, you need perspective.
That's why Aneke TV brings you the global pulse. Accurate, reliable, right when it matters most. Aneke TV. Move with the world.
There are two types of kola nut produced in Nigeria: kola nitida, otherwise called goro, and widely eaten in northern part of Nigeria. Kola acuminata, also referred to as Igbo kola, is of local origin and occupies an important position in social, religious, and sacred ceremonies in Igbo society. It is seen as a vital and sacred fruit in Igbo land and serves as the major instrument of prayers connecting the ancestors. It cements discussions and also the fundamental bedrock of philosophy and proverbs. It is a symbol of welcome, unity, and peace. If kola nut contains one cotyledon, it is regarded as dump kola nut and thrown away. Kola nut with 4 cotyledons, represents the 4 Igbo market days: Eke, Orie, Afo, and Nkwo. If kola nut contains more than 6 cotyledons, it signifies blessings and wealth, and it is celebrated. There is also another type of Igbo kola nut called Ojugo, which is referred to as the king of Igbo kola. The reproductive organ of the kola nut is referred to as the tongue, and it is removed after prayers and thrown to the spirit of the ancestors.
Ndụ a na-atọka onye anabara nke ya na ụlọ agwọ ibe anyị adị nọ ogologo ndụ arụ ike na ọdụmma ihe eji ene ndụ anya na onye nwere ihe eji ene ndụ anya na ịrụfụta nwụrụ ya ịmara na nsogbu rere ya olise bụ anyị na-ekene gị Chukwu okike onye ogologo ndụ na ogologo anya na-ahụ udo na ọchịchị anyị na-ekene na-ekene maka tata na-ayọ maka echi maka na ọsọ maka eme echi anya mara na ya dị ka echi na echi anaghị agwụ agwụgwụ na ihe ya adịrị anyị mma ndị be anya onwekwana ihe ọzọ na anyị enye ndị ichie
This cross is not a place of only celebration at Easter. For me, it's about the cross. And it's not a wooden cross. It's not a cross that is built with cement. It's a cross that we ought to know today that is a place of fire. What did I say? It's a place of fire. It's not only a symbol of suffering. Yes, it is suffering. But it's a place of fire where heaven confronted our sin. Let the cross have a different meaning this season to you. Mercy is released because you get to the cross. Grace is available. Grace, what you don't deserve, the cross makes it available. Yes, justice is satisfied, and it's a place of transformation. If you understand what the cross means, it changes your life.
So this whole week is called Holy Monday, Holy Tuesday, Holy Wednesday, Holy Thursday, Holy Friday. Then Good Friday, then Holy Saturday, and then you have the Easter. It's time to take account, step back, introspection. This is a time that Jesus is going to die, and it's a time that we are going to really think deeply of the sacrifice that Jesus had to make for the salvation of mankind. So it is a time we too should begin to think of the lessons of Easter, the lessons of sacrifice, the lessons of love, the lessons of not continuing to do the very things that took Jesus to the cross. Because if Jesus died for the sin of the world, how can you then continue to indulge in sin? Do you want to crucify him a second time? Jesus cannot go to the cross a second time. So this is the time to avoid all forms of sin. And in our country today, we are really in trouble.
It is called Good Friday because of the significance. And it's important we call it good, even though somebody died, but it is in that death that we have all the goodness of God transmitted to us by grace through the death of Jesus Christ. So it's Good Friday, especially for born-again believers. They are not just historical events, but they are deeply personal, spiritual realities that define identity, salvation, and our daily living. So the Good Friday is the day when the Lord Jesus Christ was crucified. And one of the very profound statements he made is what we found in John chapter 19, and where he told us, verse 30, it is finished. In other words, the penalty for our sin, the sacrifice for our sin, all that God required to count us holy, righteous people before him, a holy God, that he has paid it all. And it is not a question of what you get by rituals or by sacrifices or what any other person can do. There's only one Lamb of God that takes away the sins of the world, and that is Jesus Christ. And it's on Good Friday, oh, glorious Good Friday, that he was crucified on that rugged cross to secure our freedom.
Jesus died. He didn't die for nothing. He died to save the world. He died to save us. Whosoever believeth in him shall not perish. That's what the Bible said, John 3:16, but have eternal life. And so, in this season, we call on Nigerians to draw near to God. Draw close to God. Imbibe these lessons that Jesus taught us. The lesson of servant leadership. The lessons of sacrifice. The lessons of love. The lessons of living in peace one with another. These are the things that the virtues that Jesus epitomized. And these are the things we too need to be sure that in this season we, as a people of God, live our lives to them also.
If you are a born-again child of God, I mean born-again child of God, not church-going. Church-going is different from being born again. Churchianity is different from Christianity. If you are truly born again, you've given your life to Jesus through the confession of your sins to him and personally inviting Jesus into your life to be your Lord and your Savior. Then you can rejoice that there was a day called Good Friday. And thank God it is Good Friday, as many believe.
Good morning, Nigeria. Good morning, 042. Pleasant greetings to everyone watching. You are tuning to Sunrise on Aneke TV, where every sunrise begins with delightfulness, love, and purpose. Bringing you that daily dose of brightness and joy. I'm Good Hope Chukuma, coming to you live from our studio here in vibrant Enugu.
And good morning to you, our global audience. I'm Uche Osai. They say knowledge is like a garden. If it's not harvested, well, the sun is up, the coffee is hot, and we're here to make sure that you don't just pass through today, but you own it. Therefore, we're here to refresh, inform, and motivate.
It's Friday, 3rd April 2026, so it's another new edition of Sunrise, where we'll bring you the power-packed morning with the latest news, weather, business, stock updates, hot topics, and that Sunrise Pack to help you on the day.
So, relax, grab that cup of coffee or tea, enjoy the ride, because the sunrise is here.
Coming up shortly, we kick things off with our quote of the day, something thoughtful to shift your perspective and help you stay well driven or focused.
Then, straight into today's top headlines. All the key news updates that you need to remain informed will be shared, hot, thirsty, and of course, debated.
We'll also give you a full weather forecast for cities across the southeast and beyond, so you know what to expect before stepping out.
Yes, we'll wrap things up by bringing you the sports updates and a little bit of the business updates for you to be able to track your money and keep you smiling.
We go on a short break. We'll be right back with the weather updates. Stay with us.
Need advert placements, coverage for events, or the latest news stories? Call 070-3043-7110 right now. Aneke TV, move with the world.
You're still watching Sunrise here on Aneke TV. Up next, we'll take a look at the weather report across major cities in the southeast today.
Good morning, Oka. The morning begins warm and humid at around 25 to 27 degrees Celsius with patches of cloud. By afternoon, it heats up to 31 to 33 degrees Celsius, bringing a sticky, uncomfortable feel as clouds thicken. Later in the day, expect rain showers and possible thunderstorms, easing into a cooler, damp evening with lingering moisture.
Good morning, the coast city, and welcome to Enugu. Enugu this morning starts slightly cooler with 24 to 26 degrees Celsius in this morning and a hazy atmosphere. The atmosphere rises to about 30 to 32 degrees Celsius, remaining warm but not extreme. Rain and thunderstorms are likely, and the evening will look a little bit fresher, cooler, and calm.
Good morning, Abakaliki. Morning comes in at 24 to 26 degrees Celsius, calm but humid. The afternoon climbs to about 32 to 34 degrees Celsius, making it one of the warmer spots today. Clouds gather, bringing thunderstorms later, following a cooler, quiet evening with lingering clouds.
Good morning, Imo State, and welcome to my favorite city of Owerri. Owerri this morning, the weather ranges between 25 to 27 degrees Celsius, and by afternoon, it tops up to around 33 degrees Celsius. And by evening or night, there will be thunderstorms, which feels a little bit moisture and calm, with occasional drizzles.
Good morning, Omahia. The day opens at 25 to 27 degrees Celsius with mild cloud cover. Afternoon temperatures reach 31 to 33 degrees Celsius with humidity rising. Expect rain showers later in the day, leading into a calm, slightly breezy and damp evening.
So, wherever you are in the southeast today, stay safe, dress light, and do keep an umbrella handy. But remember that either rain or shine, we've got you covered. And this is your weather report here on Sunrise. We'll take a short break and we'll return with more updates. Stay with us.
In every generation, there exists a defining force. A force shaped by curiosity, driven by ambition, fueled by possibility. Where ideas evolve into innovation, skills transform into enterprise, and vision becomes impact. Because empowerment is more than progress. It is transformation. The voices shaping tomorrow. The idea redefining possibilities. The generation building the future.
Welcome back. Now let's take a quick look at what's making the front page headlines of major newspapers across the nation today. Nation, Punch, Vanguard, Daily Trust, and Daily Sun.
Yes, and joining us this morning to give in-depth analysis on these issues, deboning, giving them flesh, is Aneke TV's in-house analyst, Res Arum. Mr. Res, it's a pleasure to have you on Sunrise.
Thank you for having me, Mr. Chair. We are here this morning to do what we used to do all the time.
And it's always a pleasure doing this with you. However, this morning I will take a detour by not asking how Nigerian people, because I'm seeing you're looking all fresh and ready. Kudos to Nigeria. Kudos to Nigeria.
We start with the Nation headlines, which says Tinubu orders deployment of AI-enabled cameras in Plateau. And the Punch headline we have 2027 battle. Aneke under fire as ADC crisis worsens. In the Guardian headline we have legacy of waste inside Nigeria's mega refineries, gulping billions, producing nothing. On the Vanguard we have ADC. Oprah greets Aneke's axing of Mark Arebeshola. Then on the Daily Trust we have Aneke in the eye of the storm. Now in the Daily Sun we have ADC calls for Aneke chairman sack, alleges one-party state enforcement. We go over to the Nation's newspaper headline which says Tinubu orders deployment of AI-enabled cameras in Plateau. The federal government has directed the installation of AI-powered surveillance cameras in Plateau State to enhance security monitoring, improve intelligence gathering, and help curb ongoing violence in the region. Just yesterday, Mr. President visited Plateau State to commiserate with the state and the loss of lives because of the Palm Sunday event that took up nearly 27 lives. Mr. President has ordered that the states will have 5,000 AI-powered surveillance cameras, just like as it is in Lagos and in Enugu. And this is to monitor the state and curb violence. Of course, he has also ordered the chief of army staff and even the major general of the security side. He has ordered all of them to go and fish out these people to make sure that justice prevails. And still in the news, we are still seeing that Mr. President touched down Jos, and it's a commendable thing, I would say. It's something that everyone must have expected to see, because if it's not, it's a concern from my side that he is pathetic towards the issues that Nigerians are facing, and also he met the families of these victims. He met them, and they had a time. I will not say a long time, of course, but he had a time with them, and that is very commendable, I would say, and it is all amazing. It is amazing.
All right, Mr. Rex, let me just bring you right into the fray. Mr. President has shown sympathy by being in Jos. Let me get your perspective on this.
That is exactly what we expected of him, even when it happened at Maiduguri a few weeks back. But incidentally, he left the shores of Nigeria. And I think Donald Trump, the President of America, instead of commending, scolded him and asked even the Prime Minister of Britain to send him back to his country to face what is happening. But unfortunately, that didn't happen. But this time around, he has done well by visiting the place, visiting Jos, where gunmen killed about 28 persons and over 100 injured. It is a good development. It is, but the problem still remains that we don't, plan to stop certain events from happening. It was learned that that threat was done, and nobody cared to follow it up so as to checkmate the excesses of these terrorists until they unleashed terror on the people of Agbaruku. And of course, another is that car something, another uh, community in Kaduna State. The communities between Kaduna and Plateau State. So now the president was in Jos to commiserate with the victims' families on what happened. And there and then he was able to speak, talk tough in terms of installation of AI cameras to check excesses by these terrorists, to check insecurity. Since these cameras are already in Lagos, of course, in Enugu here, and if these installations are done, I just wish that the government should be able to plunge, money, the kind of money that we see, and we do not see what purpose for which that these monies were used. We should plunge it into, ensuring that you have these cameras everywhere. At least one will begin to think that you are now seeing what is happening within Nigeria, what is happening in our cities. You see, these terrorists are now coming into the urban areas, urban cities, to unleash mayhem on the people. So this is a development, but I wish that these cameras, as much as 5,000, he said they should start from just the metropolis, then to other areas in Plateau State. And if that is done, the security agencies would have no cause to tell us why they have not been proactive, why when such things happen, they are not seen, why they will not see these terrorists walking in the bush towards doing their dastardly acts on the public. They will be seeing these things if these cameras are there. So I think the surveillance cameras is one of the best things that will happen to Nigeria. I wish the government of Nigeria will also ensure that these surveillance cameras are done right around the Nigerian borders, where, because we have talked about closing the border, if you put in these cameras and security agencies have their monitoring rooms and you're looking at this thing, you will know when the terrorists are coming in and when they exist in Nigeria. So that, the security agencies will be at red alert to either face them squarely when they are coming in, or possibly chase and capture them if they have done anything wrong. So these things are some of the things that Nigerians are expecting from the government.
All right. These are the things we expect from our government. And commendation to the government, to President Bola Ahmed Tinubu for going to Plateau State, not waiting for us to prompt him like we did in the case of Benue State. And it's also commendable that an instruction has been given. And I keep speaking to Nigeria having good policies, but the point is implementation of such policies. So how long is it going to take for that AI cameras to be implemented, to be planted around Plateau? And like you rightly pointed out, are we stopping at just Plateau? When are we going to monitor the borders as well? When do we extend that to Kaduna and all nooks and crannies of Nigeria? Having said that, I am happy that Mr. President have seen the victims of these very dastardly acts firsthand, communicated with them, is now this time around relying on aides to give him information. He has first-hand information, and he should equally know that yes, the number he has seen is just a fraction. We have multiple citizens who are in IDP camps as well. And in that instance, beyond mounting surveillance cameras, my question remains, over time, I keep insisting that we need to have a security dialogue in this nation. And part of that dialogue is where one could ask, why is it that in this moment we are not carrying out non-season, when I mean non-season, is consistent bombardment of these terrorists? If one panders to Shegumi's interviews, he did say openly, and I've not seen the government confront him, that they are quite aware of where these bandits are, where these terrorists are. The word is terrorists. They know where they are. Why are we not seeing these areas in flames? At this time, one should expect that there should be multiple flames in Nigeria, such that anyone who is outside Nigeria would ask if we are flaming gas, because it has to be, consistent fire. If we do not meet these hoodlums with consistent fire for fire, non-seasonal kinetic approach, Mr. President may turn to the Minister of Internal Affairs, because there are a lot of places he has to pay condolence. A job that the Vice President during the campaign said is a job meant for the Vice Presidents in Nigeria. He won't be distracted. So, in as much as I appreciate Mr. President, I plead that we should increase our kinetic approach. When someone comes at you with a machete, what do you respond with? You need to get a higher object, and then both of you can dialogue. If someone calls you with a gun, you need to have a gun for conversation, for dialogue, settlement to occur. And until we start a bombardment of these terrorist enclaves, irrespective of what it is, it has gotten to a point where we need to call a spade a spade. We need to root out these individuals. Mr. President needs not be distracted with how to salvage and stabilize this nation economically, to be distracted by non-state actors. In fact, we're giving them a lot of inches, and they're itching forward. Before we know it, they may make incursion into our state capital. And when I say state capital, they're already there. I'm talking about Aso Rock. And that would be so terrible for this nation. And how do we attract foreign investment into Nigeria of this nature? So it's high time. And the question is, I may want to ask Mr. Rez, is it not that we do not have enough armament? This excess crude, the windfall that we are having, can't we channel it to see that we root out these daredevil monsters that are terrorizing our nation?
If you do have enough armament, for instance, would the president be approving monies for more ammunition, armament, and all that? You don't. The president went to Turkey, and they discussed about sending drones to Nigeria, and of course, partnering with Nigeria to stem the tide of insecurity. I have not seen anything happening in that regard. It was in the pages of newspapers, on television, and everywhere. We have heard it, but we have not seen. We have heard things. So if Nigeria do have enough armaments to confront the terrorists, they would have since used it on them, but they don't. They don't. If they do, let us know. Why are those people still doing what they're doing without anybody asking them any question? What I mean by question is that the military, the security agencies are not squarely confronting them. They are not squarely. Sometimes, they even use bombs to mangle the little number of what do you call these trucks?
Gun trucks?
Yes, gun trucks. To mangle it.
find out that these, tanks, there are more tanks, are mangled. So, which means they have very superior, firepower. So, don't you see what is happening in Iraq, where America and Israel decided to obliterate everything that Iran, uses to molest and intimidate the neighboring countries in the Middle East. So, and to here, we are having these terrorists, they're coming, they go out, the borders are porous. So, I think the Nigerian government should go for more arms, better arms, modern equipment. The surveillance cameras will help for intel gathering and all that. We have satellite in orbit, it will also function very effectively to get the roots of these terrorists, because they go through known routes which we believe that even the security agencies do know, and how to track them. We can track them. We have seen it a number of times here on this television, that these terrorists operate on the social media. We've known operate in social media with the ATM and all the networks we have in Nigeria. So they can be tracked easily.
No, you know, maybe they use satellite network, not even the ones who have. They may have access to that. But Mr. Reyes, I agree with you to a large extent in this what you're saying, but I do not agree that we do not have the resources.
We have the resources. All this money, see, there's so much resources. We have been putting in resources everywhere, but we are not seeing the improvements. We are not seeing the dividends of what resources that have been plunged into various sectors in Nigeria. You see, money is earmarked, huge sums of money in the budgets, and you say you are saying this is defense budget, and you have so much money, and you don't have the armament, you don't have the drones, you don't have the fighter jets, you don't have even the guns, straight guns, guns like M16, where the American type, which is one of the medium range, one of the best medium range rifles you have in the world. We need them to face these terrorists, because they have guns that have, submachine guns, tankers and all that.
Air missiles?
Yes, and all that.
Mr. Reyes, why
you're
talking, I say I agree with you, to a large extent, but where I differ is that, for me, the issue at stake here, I think, is, the lack of will, which the United States Congress over time did allude to, that the Nigerian leadership doesn't have the will to confront these insurgents. And I may tend to agree with them. When the other day we were seeing the homogeneous amount that is not even budgeted for, the statutory allocation for the military, but we are seeing around 2-point-something trillion that has been doled out to the military, the armed forces. And yet, the result we are having is nothing to write home about. Our citizens are being mowed down. People are giving death packages as wedding presents in Nigeria. And for me, it speaks to lack of will, because the resources may be there. We have the money and we are using it. If I may not be able to stand to say that they are diverting it, but I'm saying that this money is being voted to the armed forces, and if this homogeneous amount is indeed voted for the armed forces, we should be seeing results. And if one will have, in terms of the kinetic power to confront these people, is not enough. In the past, during the administration of former President Goodluck Jonathan, we did see where foreign mercenaries were contracted, some South Africans in Nigeria, and we gained upper hand against Boko Haram. Now, if, like you did say, we are in conversation with Turkey, when is the drone arriving? I'm not aware that these equipments are here. Our collaboration with the United States government seems to be one of diplomatic pandering rather than an on-field, interaction with these terrorists. And there are groups like the Wagner Group that you can contract to root out this evil and pay them what they need. if that is what it takes. And that's the way I expect nations that are so determined to root out such evil in their territories do.
If you bring in groups like
I'm just using that as an example.
So
that there are. We brought out the South African machinery, and they aligned with our forces, and the Boko Haram was decimated, and we had the election in 2015. Okay. Remember that prior to 2015 election, there were some places that were marked out where we may not be able to have an election take place, and prior to that, the then President Goodluck Jonathan did ask for a little time frame in adjustment of INEC timetable, and within that time frame, there was a heavy onslaught against the insurgents, and what the result?
Staff was General Ihejirika. Yes, and nobody has handled insurgency in Nigeria like that general when he was.
So if we are serious about this, why can't you bring them a man like that? I knew that after he left office, he had to go into hibernation, went out of circulation. A lot of issues were laid against him. But why can't we leverage on the technical know-how like men like Ihejirika? We still have the likes of retired General Dogoyaro in the Nigerian Armed Forces, men who led ECOMAC forces, and achieved instant results.
No, it is about those who are understudying these generals doing what they learned from the general when they were in service. But we have not seen that happen in Nigeria. And corruption. The problem of Nigeria, leadership and corruption. If Nigerian leaders do not have the will, it means they have compromised. And compromising means they have abdicated in their responsibility to protect the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, which is primarily for the safeguard of lives and property. So,
all right. One will commend Mr. President for the visit to Plateau State and for sympathizing with the bereaved. We equally call on him as the father of the nation to see to it and expedite action that we are able to salvage our nation from this, wholesome embarrassment, and terrorization of our nationals by these terrorists. He is the father of the nation, the box was on his table, and he has shown capacity. He has shown good intention, voting homogeneous amount into this, seeing that this battle against the insurgents, is brought to the barest minimum. But we are asking that more action is needed. Let them go into coalition if it's a coalition that is needed, or collaboration with other foreign governments if that is needed. But in all, let us know that Nigeria issues can and will only be solved by Nigerians when we show intent and will to solve such issues. This is not strange. Is not strange, and we can handle it. Our military have gone to ECOMOG, they've led African forces, the AU forces, and they came back victorious. So we should rethink our approach to these whole issues and bring it to the barest minimum. It's becoming a distraction on Mr. President, on our government's ability and intention to stabilize our economy and steer this nation to greater heights. On that note, let us take a look at the video of Mr. President in Plateau State.
To you leaders, I've heard this. to the victim. There is nothing I can give you, whether money in billions, but console you and promise you that this experience will not repeat itself. I take, for example, Favor Rhoda. I know the pain. I see how on the video you head on to Ayuba and the pain and agony in your heart. But it's only God. It's only God who can give you joy and comfort. No amount of money can pay all of you back. Yes, as government, we will try our best to comfort you, to work with you. The best solution is for just to be just. The one that people like us grew up to know. Please have your seat. Thank you, Bosun Tijani, the Honorable Minister, for communication. Is here to give you assurance we are going to install immediately a network of cameras that will help the law enforcement agencies to identify the troublemakers instantly. Over 5,000 YouTube network, but soon you can yield some time and give the assurance, because the time is flying. If I keep talking, we will miss our way, and you don't have accommodation for us. Thank you.
Like we did say, we'll take solace in the ways of Mr. President, who has assured the people of Jos that it's not going to happen again. We hope that this is not rhetoric, but that in this time around, those words would wear flesh and become action, seen, felt, not just in the streets of Jos, but across the Federation. As the words of Mr. President re-echoes, let it equally re-echo kinetically to ensure that these insurgents are rooted out of our nation is one too many. Another one should not happen again. So we call on Mr. President to see that his ministers expedite action and carry out his orders this time around.
We go back to the point headline, which says 2027 battle. Aneke under fire as ADC crisis worsens. 2027 battle. Aneke under fire as ADC crisis worsens. Aneke is facing mounting criticism as the internal crisis within the ADC deepens, raising concerns over the Commission's role and fueling tensions ahead of 2027 elections. this is from yesterday's or day before yesterday's issue that came up where INEC said they are not going to recognize the MAC and Rauf Arabeshola leading National Working Committee in ADC. So MAC and Rauf Arabeshola and the rest of the National Working Committee in ADC has told INEC chairman or has issued that the INEC chairman should resign if he does not know what he should do. And that is a concern that has deepened the crisis in ADC.
That's a very deep concern. Mr. S, let's dig at it. This is INEC we're talking about here. Coming out to delist the leadership of ADC, David Mark Arabeshola led leadership of ADC, on the ground that there are rulings, there are court rulings, recognizing Nafiu Bala Gombe as the rightful heir or rightful person to head the leadership of ADC. And that standing on the ground, that's INEC, that they've been served, written to by the chambers of Suleiman and co-representatives to ADC and David Mark, that they should not recognize Nafiu, that in fact they should maintain status quo. And if one panders to the court's rulings, because this is an ongoing litigation, the court did say that status quo should be maintained. And for them, in order to ensure preservatory orders of the court without prejudice, had to delist and not recognize any of these individuals as the leader of ADC. And my question to you, Mr. Rice, this morning is, the status quo should be maintained. What should be the status quo? Is it not in recognition of a leadership in place ab initio before Balan went to court? Or that status is to negate and delist the existing leadership of the party?
Well, when a court rules on a status quo ante bellum, it means the position before any litigant went to court. So, for INEC to begin to delist, it means, or it sends a signal that INEC, with the legal department, all were unable to actually discern what the Court of Appeal meant by status quo ante bellum. This means, and if INEC do not actually know what it means, because you said earlier there were court rulings that recognize Gombe.
Yeah.
When did these court rulings recognize Gombe? And is the ruling beyond, is it a Supreme Court ruling or was it a High Court ruling? And if it is Supreme Court ruling, then the appeal court ruling supersedes, given the fact that it is an appeal court. It's a higher court. Do you understand? It's an appellate court. So if the ruling of Gombe is from a high court, then INEC should not act on it presently because of the ruling of the appeal court. But if INEC is confused as to what to act on, they should approach the appeal court, asking the appeal court to possibly interpret the status quo bellum, anti-status quo, to actually say the implication. And that will be their position if they do not know what it implies. But for them to begin to dance in the arena, for them to join the litigation and begin to take actions that negates the internal affairs of the party is unconstitutional. You cannot create a vacuum. INEC is aware that Gombe resigned 4 months before the party's next meeting that handed over to Araboshala and Mark. INEC has, of course, INEC supervised that next meeting, was present. INEC knows everything about what transpired. And therefore, they should not have started coming into the arena to take their own dance again. Like we have always said, that when a judge begins to join either the prosecution or defense, it means the judge has relinquished its mandate as an unbiased umpire. And I begin to see from what has transpired as INEC being robbing itself of its unbiased position. And one begins to think about how the same INEC that does this kind of thing will give us a free, fair, and credible election come 2027. And of course, within this 2026, the two staggered or few staggered elections that will come in some senatorial zones and all that, and some states. So, it is quite unfortunate that there's almost a rape on democracy. It is unfortunate. Of course, the ADC has accused the APC of masterminding what is happening. If Amupitan can no longer hold swear to a position where he should be an unbiased umpire, the ADC called for him to resign. And the ADC called him to resign. Or possibly the second call is to be sacked. But who is going to sack Amupitan? Is it the same person that appointed him that will sack him? More so when positions is taken is in favor of the incumbent. No, the incumbent will never sack Amupitan. But on his honor, if he feels there are pressures coming, external pressures coming on him to relinquish his mandate, to do wrongly what he's supposed to do right, to do what he's supposed to do for the interest of Nigerians, to conform to the yearnings and collective aspiration of Nigerians in choosing leadership, which is supposedly the bane of Nigeria being better for it. Leadership. So if he will not, be firm in his position, he should better throw in the towel and let someone else do it. But even if anybody dies for the sake of shaping Nigeria for the better, the person's name will remain in history. I wish I were given that kind of position. And they said they're going to shoot me. I'll open my heart to be shot. To ensure there's a free, fair, and credible election in Nigeria.
All right. Let me start with INEC. Because over time, when I speak about the opposition, we tend to differ on that. But let me start with INEC. One should expect that INEC, having told this part, should come, clean and then let everything bear. Is INEC trying to make us aware that they were not part of that NEC meeting where it was agreed and the leadership of ADC resigned, giving rise to the David Mark leadership? Were they not at that meeting? There are video evidences that
Okay, I thought you were asking
that they were
question.
involved. Because as far back as November 2024, we had it on good authority that their agreement has been concluded to use ADC as a coalition party. And then there were internal meetings to which evidence point to the fact that Nafiu Bala Gombe was present and he did resign 4 months prior to this period.
As the deputy national
chairman. And we are informed
not to resign as a member.
And we are informed that this letter is in custody of INEC as well. And we've seen clips of interviews where ADC chieftains were interrogated on that resignation, giving credence to the fact that yes, that there was a resignation. Having said that, all along was the ADC leadership under David Mark not carrying INEC along. So INEC needs to come clean. And like you did say, if they are under pressure and they are beginning to dance under that pressure, it means that they are now no longer showing the semblance of that independence that is expected of an independent National Electoral Commission. INEC need to rethink their stand from a legal point of view. And we are aware that INEC has a legal department that should advise it distinctly, clearly on legal issues. Having said that, coming to the opposition, especially the coalition party ADC, over time, when I cite them on moral ground, on what should be obtainable under the rule of law of a democratic society like Nigeria. And on the basis of democracy, I will lend credence and speak with those who cause this an undermine of democracy in Nigeria. Every Nigerian needs to speak up. Nigeria cannot be allowed to tilt towards a one-party state. We've not fared better with the multiplication of political parties that we have. Yet, is it a one-party state? Perhaps fashioned in the mold of China, that would be better for a multilateral ethnic society like Nigeria. But having said that, I do not sympathize with the members of the coalition and the opposition in Nigeria. When you listen to people accusing the government of the day of having underhands in or being involved in all these shenanigans that is happening with our political parties, our politics and democracy, yes, one tends to point to the ruling party. But I'm not sympathetic to the opposition. And what are my reasons? My reason is that they've not stood up as an opposition and offered themselves as a vera tool or a political opposition party. And I always cue my stance from the now APC before they assumed power. I tell you, if this were the day of Lai Mohammed before APC, scaled through and took over power in 2015, by now, you will have seen APC mobilizing people, letting the world know that there is a rape of democracy. Instead of the Abdullahi spokesman of the ADC's press style of opposition, you need to rally the people. Then, if INEC are under pressure, then apply pressure on the people piling the pressure on INEC. There are two ways. There is a political result and there is an electoral result. And if you do not win the political strategy, there's no way you will get the electoral result. And in this instance, for me, the opposition are failing. And again, remember, President Muhammadu Buhari, may so rest in peace, did appoint ranks of APC extraction. President Bola Tinubu has continued in that trajectory. And when it happened, the opposition did nothing. Speaking to the PDP, the NNPP, LP, they were all silent. And they all scaled through the stairs of the National Assembly. And today they are Rex. So what are you expecting? When they needed to oppose, they didn't oppose. Why should I be sympathetic when they've not been the opposition that Nigeria deserves to channel the angst of Nigerians, especially as it has to do with our suffering of our nation?
And the problem is not about opposing for the appointment. Statutorily, whose responsibility is it to appoint? And when it is somebody's responsibility to appoint, what do you do? What do you oppose? What are you going to oppose? People, you see, how did you know that the people, members of political parties were appointed? How did you know? Because we have the information. People had the information and people spoke against it. But there's nothing else you can do. What kind of opposition do you want to do? Do you want to come to the street and fight the government? Or do you want to destabilize the peace of the nation? Or do you want to come out to begin to make protests on those appointments as if maybe you are going to nominate those who will be appointed? You see, you don't have the power to nominate. It is about the laws we operate. The law should take away from the presidency the appointment of umpires for the selection or for the election of leadership in Nigeria, so that this the election commission should be truly independent. It should pass through some certain hurdles that will make it such a thing that whoever emerges will know that is serving the people.
I agree with you. I agree with you. I agree with you totally on that. Sticking to appointment, but yes, sticking to the fact that the opposition never raised their voice at that instant begs the issue that at this point in time,
the then opposition, the present coalition, is a coalition that is coming to oppose the incumbent government. And you see, they have not been together all along. It is only now that so many of them are coming together to ensure that we have a balance in our democratic setting.
No one is instigating violence or protest against the nation, but I'm schooled in the act of civil disobedience has been led by President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. I'm of the school of thought that anchors on President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's principles, his strategies that has given APC victory over time. And one should expect that at this moment, that the members of the coalition, the leadership, as envisaged by the individual symbols of that very coalition, speaking to the likes of P2B, speaking to Rotimi Amechi, speaking to David Mark, speaking to Atiku Abubakar. These are individual heavy mobilizers. Occupy INEC, that would move somebody's hand. Occupy National Assembly, that would engender negotiation. At this point in time, people should be sitting down at the presidency, leading people to make statements. When I listen to APC, when I listen to Bolaji, the accusation is that the ruling party has a hand in this. They are doing this, they are doing that. Okay. But nobody is asking the question. Okay. What are you doing as an opposition party in terms of counter strategy?
Are you aware that tanks were sent to INEC? Tanks were rolled into INEC to stop any form of protest within INEC.
The word is occupy.
And we are aware that tanks, I don't know, we are even lacking tanks to confront the terrorists. But tanks were released and they rolling tanks into INEC to protect, sitting occupying, constitute any form of nuisance, they call it, within the INEC office, the INEC national office in Abuja. So you now see the level of desperateness of the incumbent to roll tanks to stop Nigerians from expressing themselves. Roll tanks to stop Nigerians from expressing themselves. When you have no roll tanks to maintain security of lives and property.
All right, all right. I quite agree with you that we need those tanks more to protect, lives and property of Nigerians rather than turning them on Nigerians. But my take so far is not that of protest, but on counter strategy. What one should be witnessing at this point in time is superior strategy. I remember Mr. President did, and we are well informed, and schooled that power is not given, that you have to work for it. You have to grab it. It's never served a la carte. And you can't do that by sitting at the comfort of your office and engage in press briefings. We need to see strategies. But having said that, we'll go on a short break. When we return, we'll continue to probe this issue.
From the tiniest cells to the farthest galaxies, life holds secrets we are only beginning to uncover. Why are we here? What connects us all? What unseen forces shape our destiny? Join Professor Jude Udenta as he explores the wonders, the questions, and the revelations that define existence. Mysteries of life, where every answer sparks a new discovery. Watch now on Aneke TV every Monday.
All right, welcome back. Still on the newspaper headlines, we are going over to the Guardian headlines, which says legacy of waste inside Nigeria's mega refineries, gulping billions, producing nothing. Nigeria's major refineries have consumed vast public funds over the years, but continue to deliver little to no output, highlighting inefficiencies, mismanagement, and the ongoing burden on the nation's economy. From this headline is the issue of this Nigeria's refinery, looking at the current situation where Nigeria has seen themselves about the oil price, the Brent crude price, and how we have 4 refineries that are not functioning in the country, while we have, there are budgets for this. Just in the Port Harcourt refinery, there's about $3.14 billion, which was used to, support it, which was used to, try to revitalize it back. And this particular action, this particular refinery, there was a warning about it. Let it not be revitalized. Looking at the situations around it, that Nigeria will be, that the refinery will bring us into a 4 trillion naira debt, which we are yet to, settle. Now, looking at other refineries and looking at Nigeria's economic situation is telling a lot on that side, linking it with the war, ongoing tension in the Middle East. So we are not having it as we should have it as a nation, and we are servicing what we are not using, and not just that we are servicing what we are not using. There are, from time to time, plunge of financial commitment into these facilities, which at the end of the day is bringing us or drawing us back as a nation, and that is not a good side. That is not a good side.
Yes, indeed, that's not a good sight to behold. And Mr. Rez, we're looking at Nigeria's refineries of gold, refineries that has enriched the nation, that make fuel flow through our streets.
Well, if we talk about Nigerian refineries, I think I've had the opportunity of speaking on our refineries. And I provide a solution that the Nigerian government should think about selling off our refineries. The refineries have become a conduit pipe to siphon our resources. Tell me exactly, if it were to be a private refinery, tell me how the investor will survive without the refinery functioning. Yet, they are workers in that refinery and they are paid their salaries month after month. Yet, there are no outputs. How can you begin to put in money into an establishment like that without getting anything out of it? We're talking about privatizing. No, well, I'm talking, okay, privatization, yes. Or sell, outright sell, so that investors will refine and pay taxes to government. And government will have returns. And of course, they will also, make money. And a lot of people will be in their employ who are also going to pay taxes to government, and there will be money coming into government coffers. But this time we talk about 1 billion, 3.14 billion, turnaround maintenance all the time. Do we begin to ask questions whether there's been a compromise by the importation of finished products from abroad? And that is exactly why Dangote has been having running battle with some sectors of government establishments and independent marketers, because his prices are not in tandem with theirs, because he refines at a very competitive price and his prices are lower. So why don't we sell off these places and keep all these burden and talking and all these things away from our polity, so that we know exactly what we're doing? The refineries license, the licenses given to independent refineries, about 40 or more than 40. We have not seen any except that of Dangote. What is holding them? Why won't government revoke these licenses and begin to seek for people who are serious to invest in refinery petroleum in Nigeria? So we have a problem in Nigeria, and I have always said that the father of all problems stems in leadership, and of course the attendant corruption. That is the factor, the major factor that tends to regulate activities of governance and every other thing in Nigeria. So corruption has become endemic. It is even beyond systemic. We can say systemic is, of course, large level of corruption. But you see, the change will start from Nigerians themselves, because we have not seen any kind of thing or policy that could change corruption. We have not seen anything that could change corruption in Nigeria. We have only seen that the change to corruption is about individual Nigerians. So Nigerians will be the people that will come and say, I changed myself, and it keeps going. And when it becomes viral, the change will eventually come. We are in a mess. People have even alluded to a failed state, but I do not think it is failed, because there are still things that we can do for ourselves.
All right. There are so many things we can do for ourselves, and part of those things we can do for ourselves, like you did say, selling off the refinery. Yes, we can sell the refinery off to Megongoni, Mebola, sell it as scrap. If there's nothing we can do, if we sell it as scrap, we'll make millions. Yes, we'll make millions of dollars if we sell it off as scraps. The equipment, the machines there, we'll make millions of dollars. These refineries have become so productive over the years that if we sell them off, we may make more money lesser than how productive they've become. They become so productive that they've got 3.14 billion US dollars for turnaround maintenance of just 3 of them. Let's call a spade a spade. The Port Harcourt refinery is even more productive, that it has got 1.5 billion, for refurbishment, yet producing more fuel than even the Dangote refinery, that Nigerians can fetch fuel from the broken pipes around the gutters around their houses.
Let me hope you make it clear for your viewer who may misunderstand what you are saying.
The point is this, that our refineries, they have become so wonderfully good that Nigerians don't lack fuel. That fuel has become the cheapest commodity in Nigeria. That is the area we spend less money by our government. Over time, would this speak to the fact that our leader at one point said that the problem in Nigeria is not the money, but on how to spend it. But we've mastered how to spend it. And the refinery is there, if we do not sell it off as scrap, to get the money. How do you justify 3.14 billion US dollars in an unproductive venture? And we call them refineries. Refineries of what? Refineries of poverty. Refineries of what? Lack. The Dangote refinery that came on stream the other day is scattering the need of this nation. Imagine what would have become of Nigeria with the closure of the Strait of Hormuz and the battle in Iran. This morning, perhaps, you and I would not be in the studio. We will be queuing up at one gas station somewhere, praying to high heavens that it gets to our turn. And when it did get to our turn, if we will have enough money, because it will be selling above 2,000 naira or more. But Dangote is there, producing, fighting against the naysayers and the people who doesn't want it to thrive, all in the name that will have refinery. I challenge any Nigerian to take a tour of our refineries. Start from Kaduna refinery, where people cross legs and sip coffee. Okay. And at the end of the month, they are paid for doing nothing. I'm not against Nigerians being employed, but I'm against the waste that we call refinery. Move from Kaduna refinery to Port Harcourt refinery, where 1.something billion has been plugged into. Yet, it produces nothing. Or do we speak about Warri refinery? Or what state is it? And at the end of the day, like you well summed it up, I do not know what the leadership wants to achieve by continuing to keep these moribund
establishments,
infrastructures. They keep gulping money that were being used to scale the kinetic needs of this nation to root out these daredevil terrorists. Money that would have been used to cater for those in IDP camps that litter our nation when we are not at war. More money that would have been used to see that our high institutions become citadels of learning and not research. And research, yes, and not the ghost institution that it is, where parents sell off their property in order to afford fares for their wealth. There are a whole lot, and the heart bleeds when we keep speaking and looking at this issue. But the point is that we have good policies, we have good plans. And how come implementation becomes the problem? If a Dangote can turn around, build a refinery that has the capacity to sustain the needs of Nigeria and other nations, still have excess for exports, then how much more in the nation Nigeria, not an importer of crude, but a net producer of crude, beneficiary from the windfall from the Iranian crisis, and yet we can't manage this surplus and build a semblance of a refinery that has the capacity to refine and produce 20 liters of fuel that will serve the man in my village. So it leaves a lot to desire. And like I did say, let them sell this thing, call this Mebola, Let us weigh it and sell it off. We may make more money. And this money can be shared as rice. Everybody will take their portion. Then let's rely on Dangote moving forward. Instead of coming to hear in the news every fortnight about billions that has got into the refineries. Where is Mercury and the reports from EFCC about huge amount that was given to him for the turnaround maintenance of these refineries? He made headlines. Everywhere is quiet. Tomorrow another headline. Is that how we move forward as a nation? It becomes more worrisome. And you put it subtly that at the end of the day, the buck stops on the table of the leadership.
All right, and that's a wrap on today's newspaper review. As always, you can grab the physical copy of your favorite paper from your nearest vendor or catch the full details online. And that's also a wrap on this edition of Sunrise on Aneke TV. Thank you for waking up with us. It's always a pleasure. I am Good Hope Chukuma.
All right, Mr. Reza, it's always a pleasure having this tete-a-tete with you, speaking about Nigerian issues, those, deep insights you bring into this conversation.
Thank you for having me, and keep watching Aneke TV all the time. It will always come with a very decisive dissect of national and international issues.
And I'm Uche Osai. On behalf of all of us here on Sunrise at Aneke TV, we'll say thank you for watching and keep watching till we come your way, same time on Monday. Bye-bye. Good Friday, in Christian belief, is the sacred remembrance of the crucifixion and death of Jesus Christ. It represents the central mystery of the Christian faith, that through suffering and sacrifice, humanity is offered redemption and reconciliation with God. Good Friday signifies sacrificial love. Christians believe that Jesus willingly gave his life for the forgiveness of sins, making the cross not just an instrument of death, but a symbol of divine mercy and grace. It also represents atonement, the idea that Christ's death bridges the gap between humanity and God. In this understanding, justice and mercy meet at the cross. Sin is acknowledged, yet forgiveness is made possible. Spiritually, Good Friday reflects humility and obedience. Jesus' submission, even unto death, is seen as the ultimate example of surrender to God's will. It redefines power not as force or control, but as love experienced through sacrifice. Finally, it represents hope through suffering, though marked by pain and sorrow. Good Friday is not the end of the story. It points towards restoration and renewal, reminding believers that darkness can give way to light and death can lead to life. In essence, Good Friday is a profound declaration that love, even in suffering, has the power to redeem, restore, and transform.
Need advert placements, coverage for events, or the latest news stories? Call 070-3043-7110 right now. Aneke TV, move with the world.
Corruption in Nigeria is not limited to isolated scandals. It is systemic, deeply embedded, and sector-specific, affecting critical areas of governance, particularly oil and gas, power, the judiciary, and local government administration. These sectors highlight how weak oversight, institutional fragility, and accountability gaps continue to constrain national development. Nigeria's oil and gas sector, the backbone of the national economy, remains highly vulnerable to corruption. Despite contributing the largest share of government revenue and foreign exchange earnings, the sector faces challenges of opaque accountability, weak audits, and repeated allegations of under-remittance. Independent investigations into the period between 2011 and 2017 uncovered unresolved revenue discrepancies running into tens of billions of dollars. Crude oil sales, fuel subsidy claims, and joint venture arrangements have been particular areas of concern, while reforms like the commercialization of the Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited and the Petroleum Industry Act were designed to improve transparency, implementation gaps persist. Recent international asset recoveries, including over $50 million repatriated from the United States, illustrates the scale of past governance failures and the slow pace of accountability. The power sector also reflects the impact of weak governance on economic and social development. Since 1999, Nigeria has reportedly spent over $16 billion on interventions in electricity generation, transmission, and distribution. Yet, supply remains unreliable for a population exceeding 200 million. Audits indicate contract inflation, poor project supervision, and regulatory uncertainty as major challenges. Debt within the gas-to-power value chain has forced government bailouts and emergency payments to suppliers. Recent steps, including settlement of legacy gas debts, aim to stabilize the sector. But experts warn that without transparent procurement, stronger regulation, and disciplined subsidy management, energy insecurity will persist. The judiciary is critical in enforcing anti-corruption laws, but public confidence remains low. Surveys conducted by the National Bureau of Statistics and the United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime show that judicial officers receive some of the highest average bribe payments among public officials. Perception studies consistently rank the judiciary among the most corrupt institutions, particularly in politically sensitive or high-value cases. Prolonged trials, frequent adjournments, and the procedural loopholes contribute to public skepticism. Legal analysts argue that stronger judicial discipline, improved remuneration, and institutional safeguards are essential to restore credibility. At the local government level, corruption directly affects citizens' daily lives. Councils responsible for primary health care, education, sanitation, and rural infrastructure are often cited in surveys for routine bribery and mismanagement. The National Bureau of Statistics reports that more than half of Nigerians interacting with public officials encounter demands for unofficial payments, particularly in local administration, policing, and utilities. Weak financial autonomy, political interference, and limited oversight exacerbate these problems, reinforcing distrust in government. Across all sectors, corruption thrives where institutions are weak. Oversight is limited and consequences are uncertain. While anti-corruption agencies report thousands of convictions and hundreds of millions of dollars in asset recoveries, experts stress that enforcement alone cannot fix systemic issues. Economic studies estimate that corruption costs Nigeria billions of dollars annually and could erode up to 37% of GDP by 2030 if reforms stall. Beyond economic loss, it undermines service delivery, widens inequality, and weakens democratic legitimacy. Policy analysts now advocate for a governance-first approach, strengthening transparency in public finance, digitizing service delivery, protecting whistleblowers, and guaranteeing judicial independence. For Nigeria, the challenge is no longer diagnosing corruption, but sustaining the political will to reform the systems that allow it to persist. In a country facing economic pressure, security challenges, and rising public expectations, governance reform remains central, not optional, to national progress.
Many thanks for joining us. And this is The Insight. Remember, The Insight is that program where we bring to you a bit of issues, policies, politics, personalities shaping our nation. Today is Good Friday. And on Good Friday, the world pauses. In the grand cathedral of human history, there is perhaps no date more paradoxical, more haunting, or more profoundly transformative than the Good Friday. On the surface, it is a narrative of systemic failure, a betrayal by a friend, a sham trial by the elite, and the ultimate silence of a cross. Yet, we call the day good. We call it holy. Why? Because the essence of Good Friday is not found in the tragedy of the suffering, but in the majesty of the sacrifice. It is the ultimate confrontation between the fleeting power of men and the eternal power of love. In a world that often prioritizes self-preservation, Good Friday demands we look at the cause of redemption. It asks us, can there be a crown without a cross? Can there be a morning without the night? And in our own lives, amidst our personal struggles and national trials, how do we find the good in our own Fridays? To help us navigate the deep waters of this mystery, we are joined by a voice of profound spiritual clarity. He is a shepherd, a theologian par excellence, and a scholar of the soul, the priest, director of Radio Maria Nigeria, Enugu, Reverend Father Ambrose Ofodile. Father, it's a pleasure to have you one more time on The Insight.
Thank you so much.
Yes, Father, we really appreciate your being here. We know that the clergy are always busy this time, and here you are. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yes. Father, when we talk about Good Friday, my question would be, in a world that is obsessed with winning, with making it and with escaping pain at all costs. How do we justify the calling, the public humiliation and the death of Christ good? Is the good in Good Friday a theological escape or just a theological clause or framework? Or is there a tangible power in that suffering that we are missing?
Yeah, thank you very much. In the first place, we talk about the description or the ascription good to this Friday. You could say that today is the climax of the Easter Triduum, starting with the Holy Thursday, Good Friday, Holy Saturday, and then the resurrection morning of Holy Easter Sunday. And so today we are celebrating the death of our Lord Jesus Christ. And one would expect that today should answer or bear Bad Friday. But it is so because the church understands the importance of whatever we describe as evil or bad, God has a way of making it good. And in the exultate of Easter Vigil tomorrow, you will hear the priest chanting that, "O sin that wrought for us our salvation." Exultate, in the exultate. In other words, there is a salutary dimension to Good Friday. So the ascription good there is an indication that the Christians do not see the death of Jesus as an annihilation. They see the death of Jesus as a path to salvation. And that's why we believe that his death brought us salvation, brought us light. So in that sense, it is no longer negative. The death of Jesus is no longer negative. So you cannot say Bad Friday because we are not hoping like people who don't have hope. We are Christians and we believe that after the Good Friday, there shall be resurrection morning. And that's why it is that way. Now, delving into Good Friday, we talk about the passion and death of our Lord Jesus Christ, his sufferings. You starting from the appearance of Jesus before Caiaphas, appearance of Jesus at the Sanhedrin, appearance of Jesus before Pilate. We see the different movements because after the raising of of Lazarus from death in John chapter 11, we notice that the Jewish aristocrats determined to arrest Jesus and to crucify him. They wanted to humiliate him. They wanted him to suffer because they believed that he was taking away the Jews from them. Because at that time, the Jewish aristocrats, the Pharisees and the scribes, were actually the people who were saying what happens in the society. People were following them. They were the custodians of the Jewish practices. And so when Jesus came, they saw him as an intruder. And so they felt that he should be eliminated. The climax was the raising of Lazarus from the dead. And they felt it was the climax. And so they determined to kill him. They started searching for him. And when they even found him at the entrance, triumphant entrance into Jerusalem, last Sunday we celebrated the Palm Sunday. And the disciples and people who came for the Jewish Passover were hailing Jesus as the Messiah, the Savior. They were calling him Hosanna to the Son of David. They were acclaiming him the King. And the Pharisees and the scribes found it so unsettling for this man to, come and assume the position of a king. And coupled with the many utterances he made, of course, in one of his trials, they accused him of claiming to be capable of destroying the temple and in 3 days raise the temple up. So they felt that this intruder should be killed. And so they started plotting. And should we say providentially or should we say accidentally? Judas Iscariot approached them and told them, "What will you give me if I hand this man over to you?" And they promised him 30 pieces of silver, which he accepted. And he showed them where they could find Jesus at the Garden of Gethsemane. And there is something about this garden where they found Jesus, which we must take note of. When we consider the book of Genesis, after creating man, God placed man in the garden. And in that garden, God was taking care of him. The book of Genesis chapter 2 tells us how God will come down and interact with the same man he created. Man was not lonely. Man was alone, but not lonely. we need to differentiate the two. Because at a point, God said, it is not good that a man should be alone. Let us make for him a helpmate.
Sorry,
God was there.
Just for emphasis.
Yeah.
He said man was not alone.
In the sense that he should be comfortable with staying with God.
Okay.
But man felt human companionship.
Okay.
And God was providing all that, because the book of Genesis, written in an anthropomorphic writing, in terms of when you compare the book of Genesis chapter 1 and Genesis chapter 2, you see the different accounts of creation. You talk about Genesis chapter 1, that God created man, created everything with the word of mouth. He said, let there be, and there was. But when we come to Genesis chapter 2, we see the man God. I mean, what anthropologists will talk about, we say anthropomorphic understanding of God, that he formed man from the soil. The act of forming is only associated with the human person. And then he made man from the soil, indicating that we are talking about a God who is close to creation. And in contrast to what philosophers describe as deus absconditus, that God, after creating man, ran away from the world. That's why he lives so far away from the world. But philosophers and their thinking. But Genesis chapter 2 gave us the human attribute of God, that he comes down to interact with the human person. And from there, he found the need for man to have a companion. That was why the Bible recorded that he made him to fall into a deep sleep. And while he slept, he took one of his ribs and enclosed it in flesh and created a woman. He made man not to be awake when he will create a woman. And I use this to teach the mystery of a woman, because God did not allow Adam to be awake when he was creating Eve. So that we understand that a person that was created when we were asleep, we may not comprehend the human person so much. But that's not a denigration of the women folk, but it is also an elevation of their status, because God created a woman to be a helpmate to the man and a companion, because he saw the need for man to be with a companion. So when we fast forward to the Sanhedrin, and where Jesus was brought, of course, I told you that in Passion Sunday, Palm Sunday, that they were shouting, Hosanna to the Son of David. But the Pharisees and the scribes were unsettled about it all. And they cautioned Jesus. Can you caution your disciples? They are making so much noise. At that time, people were coming into Jerusalem to celebrate the Passover. So Jesus was also coming in triumphantly. But what you could say the paradox was that Jesus came in not with a horse.
Okay.
He came in with a colt. He came in with a donkey, the child,
baby donkey.
A baby donkey. And he came in triumphantly. And I am sure that anyone who is conversant with war will understand that the donkey is not an animal for fighting, not an animal for war. It's an animal for carrying burdens. It's a burden animal. So when Jesus came in with such an animal, I am sure that Pilate and even Herod would take him serious, because a king will not come in with a donkey. But the Pharisees and the scribes felt that this man was taking too much, and they began to plot against him. And they started telling him, "Can you tell your apostles to keep quiet?" He told them, "If I tell them to keep quiet, even the stones will start shouting." Now we see Jesus entered triumphantly, and the people with the acclamation, Hosanna to the Son of David, they spread their clothes. They brought palm leaves and palm branches, as exemplified in last Sunday liturgy, where you have Palm Sunday. People were acclaiming Jesus, the King. And when we look at what happened there, we see that the same people who acclaimed him King also shouted and demanded for his crucifixion. That is human betrayal, and that is human, you could say human condition. Because when eventually Jesus entered Jerusalem, amidst the shouts of Hosanna to the Son of David, and Hosanna, we should remember, was a prayer, and it was made a salutation on that day. They acclaimed him, they shouted Hosanna to the Son of David, and they made reference also to the Gospel of Matthew, Hosanna to the one who is coming in the name of the Lord. In other words, you remember the angels when Jesus was born, they shouted and they acclaimed him. it was the same acclamation that also happened in this triumphant entry. So I was talking about Judas, who went to the Pharisees and the scribes and asked them to give him some money. And he led the soldiers to the garden where Jesus used to pray. Remember that I told you that the garden is always a place of encounter, because God placed man in the garden when he created him. And it was a place of encounter between the divine and human. It was the same garden that Jesus went to, and he continued to pray. And he went with Peter, James, and John. And at the first occasion, he found out that they were sleeping. And he told them to wake up, to pray. Pray with him. Keep awake. And for 3 times, Jesus was, praying and in the spirits. And here we also see the meeting of the humanity of Jesus and his divinity. Because in contemplating his own, you could say, vicarious death, that he said 3 times, Father, if it is your will, let this cup pass by. But not my will, but your will be done. His humanity surfaced. Remember that at incarnation, Jesus became fully God and fully man. So he identified with human nature that was frail, human nature that was weak. But you remember St. Paul. St. Paul said he was man in all things except in sin. He experienced anything a human being could experience. When you read Philippians chapter 2 from verse 6 to 10, he experienced everything. But what was different was that Jesus did not sin. So he was afraid, so to speak, in that garden. He commended his disciples to also pray, so that they will overcome temptation. And while praying also, he also felt that weakness which any human being could feel. And but at the end, he will always say, let your will be done, not my own will. And we see that when he was arrested, there is something that I used to tell people, that on a day like this, Judas Iscariot wanted Jesus to disappear. He expected that Jesus should disappear. He expected that Jesus should, find his way out of the crowd.
Let's draw the emphasis here. First, he was the one that made that approach.
Yes.
The other way around, we were thinking that he was approached, but now we could clarify that he made the approach.
Depending on the synoptic you are reading.
Okay.
So some said he was approached, some say he went to them. But the bottom line was that Judas wanted. I tell people that Judas he was the first person to start Yahoo, because he thought that he would just take their money, and at the end Jesus would disappear. Because there were so many instances they want to catch Jesus and they will not catch him.
So in
sometimes
this instance,
they wanted to stone him.
Sorry, Father, to cut in. In this instance, the point here is that Judas really believed in Jesus Christ, in his divine abilities to disappear from and not be caught by the...
Let's not get there, but let us even talk about the personality of Judas Iscariot. Okay. Judas was from Judea as well as Jesus. Okay. All the other apostles were from Galilee.
Okay.
Judas was the only person from the same place, from Judah, the same place with Jesus. You remember the northern Israel and the southern Israel. The southern Israel, that is the headquarters, where the Jerusalem temple is, Judah itself. Jesus and Judas are from the same place. Even when you look at their names, you understand that they are from the same place. What grieved Jesus at the Passover table was that the person he was close to, the person from the same place. That's why the Bishop of Enugu, Most Reverend CVC Onaga, he wrote his pastoral letter this year, and he called it The Pain and Cost of Betrayal. You see. So it grieved him that he told his disciples, one of you will betray me. One of you. And when we start analyzing that one of you, we see also that it's from origin, from divine plan. It was clear that he will be betrayed. When you read the prophecy of Isaiah, you see the suffering Messiah, the suffering servant of God, who was derided, who was stripped, who was killed, So this same Judas came and, sold his master for 30 pieces of silver. The argument I want to raise is that at the end, when he found out that Jesus died, because he was there, all the apostles of Jesus abandoned him. That's also the dimension of betrayal. Even Peter, that used his knife to cut the ear of Marcus, the servant of the chief priest. All of them ran away. Even Peter had to deny Jesus 3 times before the cock crow. So all these things are signs of betrayal, which could also come to a Christian. You could be abandoned. And Jesus Christ also, to an extent, suffered the same abandonment. Or you could say he participated in the human suffering. Because at a point he shouted from the cross, why have you abandoned? Why have you forsaken me? Lord, Lord, why have you forsaken? Eloi, Eloi, lama sabachthani. He cried the same abandonment. But it was not an abandonment that is an abandonment. It is an abandonment that is in solidarity with human condition. Because every day of our lives, we experience the same apparent abandonment. But God does not abandon us. He's always there with us and for us. So when we consider the sufferings of Jesus, which we are commemorating today, that is Good Friday, that Jesus died, he was betrayed by those who were closest to him. Peter, Judas, all of us. I was making an analysis the other day, and I said, is it possible to have the 5,000 people Jesus fed, the 4,000 people he fed, the 72 disciples, the 12 apostles, the 10 lepers, the women of Jerusalem that were waiting for him, and all those people who were around him, including the synagogue official? If all of them had shouted, do not crucify him, would Jesus be crucified? But because it was in the divine plan, at every point Jesus would say that the divine plan may be accomplished. You remember when Peter even cut off the ear of Marcus? Jesus took back the ear and told Peter, keep back your sword. Will I not drink the cup that my Father has sent to me? So it was in the divine plan, and he was following the divine plan. He was doing it. Jesus did not commit suicide. The other day I was trying to distinguish between suicide and what is in the plan of God. Sacrifice. Yes. So in sacrifice, you find out that somebody could also be compelled to sacrifice, and it is not sacrifice. But Jesus willingly offered himself. He was not forced by the Father, because there is a way we explain it, and we present God as an exacting God, as an exacting Father who will always want something commensurate with what he has offered. He offered his son, and his son accepted to be offered. Okay. That's the correct interpretation. That he offered his son, and his son accepted to be offered in humility. And that's why St. Paul, poetically, in that hymn-like rendition in Philippians chapter 2, talked about what we call the kenosis of Jesus Christ, the self-emptying of Jesus Christ. That even though he was in the form of God, he took the nature of man in all things except in sin. There's one more thing to talk about in this Good Friday. When we talk about there is what I call the it is finished of our Lord Jesus Christ, the tetelestai, the consummatum est, that Jesus shouted in John chapter 19, I think in verse 30. He shouted, it is finished. And one begin to ask, what's finished? For Jesus to say it is finished. And before we even talk about it is finished, we talk about even the good thief that accompanied him to heaven. The good thief who at the 11th hour received grace, showed his love, showed his respect, showed his faith in Jesus Christ. By reprimanding the other person, the other thief, why are you talking like that? He did not do anything, but we are suffering as a result of our actions, And Jesus promised this man that he will follow him to paradise the same day. So it is finished of Jesus Christ. What finished was our sin. We are indebted. That's why he came. We failed him in the book of Genesis. That's why we failed God. And I will always explain this by saying that it takes the infinite to appease the infinite. All the other sacrifices of the Old Testament were good in themselves, but they were not enough to appease God. But we see in Jesus Christ the greatest of all sacrifices. He offered once and for all sacrifice. That sacrifice appeased God. That sacrifice, made humanity one with God. That sacrifice brought an end to human suffering in the sense that Jesus died for us. And so when we say it is finished, we talk about the earthly mission of Jesus when he came. He came for the purpose of dying for humanity and to save humanity. So he completed the assignment given to him by the Father. What finished also was our indebtedness to sin, to death, our indebtedness to evil. But Jesus nailed all of them to the cross and saved humanity. That's the essence of today, the Good Friday.
All right. On that note, we'll go on a short break. And when we return, we'll continue to listen to Father Ambrose of Fodile on the essence of Good Friday. Stay with us. The Insight with Uche Osai.
Having the political will to confront whatever is the challenges.
Igbo man wrestles with
the tortoise that had a lot of ingenuity, a lot of ideas, and the tireless.
It will take the bold mind of government in power to say, let there be electoral reform, no matter whose heart is God.
I was there. We did everything. All of us came and supported him with our last block.
In-depth analysis, expert views, real voices, uncover the stories shaping Nigeria today. Deep dive, honest, unfiltered, only on The Insight with Uche Osai on Aneke TV. Join us. Many thanks for staying with us. And if you're just joining us, we've been looking at the essence of Good Friday. And with us to dissect these issues is Reverend Father Ambrose of Fodile. Father, thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
All right. Father, while you were speaking, you did say it took divinity to appease divinity. But, drawing from this, one may want to ask, why did Jesus have to take this very path when he could have come as a king, perhaps as a politician, and still be able to appease the divine?
Yes, Jesus came at a time that the Jews had an expectation.
Okay.
The Old Testament prophesied that the Messiah will come. And their understanding of the coming of Messiah was to dislodge the Romans and to set up a kingdom. They were expecting a political Messiah, someone who would come and defeat their enemies and then stand as a standard for all of them. But when Jesus came, to their surprise, he came as a baby. That's why in the Advent period we talk about the coming of Christ. The first coming, we talk about his coming in history. And he came as a child. That was why they did not believe him. The human understanding of Messiah, of course, the Jewish understanding of Messiahship was a one who would come like a king, like mighty, like with warriors, and kill everybody and raise the Jews. That was their understanding. Until today, the Jews are still having that expectation. They are still having that expectation that the Messiah will come when you go to the core Jews now. But in Christianity, we understand that Jesus who came decided to come like a child, like a weak person, like you could say a weak person, like a child. He was born in a poor family, he was raised there, we did not hear anything about him until he was 30. He almost came unnoticed. In contrast to their expectation of a Messiah, that is the plan of God, different from that of human beings. Because man has a way of thinking that is different from God. So God's ways are not our ways. So our expectations, even as you are posing the question, it's also what you may even think of, and that what should ordinarily come when you consider great people in the world today. They don't just come like commoners. They come like strong people. But Jesus came that way in order to show us humility. That's why St. Paul will always talk about that humility, that kenosis, that self-immolation, that self-abnegation, that self-sacrifice. And with it, they were confused. They didn't know. In fact, in the expectation of a Messiah, they saw John the Baptist and they thought he was the Messiah. They asked him several times, tell us who you are. Stop confusing us. Are you the Messiah? And John the Baptist told them, I am not he, but he is coming. He cleared the way for him, the precursor of Jesus Christ. He cleared the path for him, the pathfinder. When Jesus eventually came, they did not recognize him. In fact, John the Baptist himself had to ask him, are you the one, or should we expect another? Because John the Baptist saw himself in the prison and he was expecting him to come and break the prison and save him. It didn't happen that way. So our own thinking is not that of God. So it's out of humility to show us, to tread the path of humanity. He wants to identify with our weakness, our humanity. He wants to show us the path to the Father. If he had come like a king, he would not have, identified with us. That's why when you are saying your prayers, God understands what you are passing through. When we say that God knows what you are passing through, we mean that Jesus has passed through the same situation. What is that situation that you are passing through that Christ did not pass through while he was here? Is it death? Suffered the loss of his friend Lazarus? Is it mockery? Is it betrayal? What is it that you are suffering now that Jesus did not pass through? So it was necessary that he passes through that pathway of humanity. And I said when I was explaining incarnation that in incarnation, divinity embraced humanity, and humanity embraced divinity, showing us the path to the Father. And I also explained that the cross as a cross, the wooden cross, is also a sign for us, because in that cross you see the vertical dimension and the horizontal dimension. When we talk about the vertical dimension, we're talking about God, the divinity of God. When we talk about the horizontal dimension, we talk about the humanity of the people. At the center is Jesus Christ, who is the bridge between God and humanity. So you can now understand that being truly God and being truly man, he could understand us. And being human, he could understand us. And being divine, he is one with the Father. So that's why it is necessary that he comes like a child, grew up like every other normal person, and then identifying also the challenges we face as children, as adults, and then eventually the death on the cross. He suffered pains. They spat upon him, they cajoled him, they made mockery of him. Yet, he did not respond negatively. In fact, on the cross, he said, Father, forgive them, for they do not know what they are doing. And that's the highest point in terms of Good Friday. That after enduring all these things, he was able to say, I forgive you. So we are celebrating the forgiveness of God. So even though this is Good Friday, we are expectant, even while celebrating this Good Friday, that he who died on the cross will resurrect. He who died on the cross will save us. He who died on the cross will give us an opportunity to have access to the Father. In fact, one of the consequences of his death on the cross was that he gave us an access to the Father. And the other day I was talking about his piercing of his side by Longinus, who threw a lance at his side. And the Bible recorded that water and blood came out at the same time, signifying the birth of the sacraments of the church, the sacrament of baptism and the sacrament of the Eucharist. So you see now that Christ himself gave us an opportunity to experience him. His death is our own salvation. If he did not die and resurrect, our faith would have been in vain. So his death opened the way for all of us to embrace God, to know God, to come close to God, because it was through his birth, death, suffering and death that humanity now had access to the Father, that we can now call God Abba, Father. Remember that Adam and Eve sinned against God and they were chased away. Heaven closed against them. But with the death of Jesus, and in fact symbolically, the veil that tore into two at the death of Jesus was the access that was granted to us. It tore into two, the veil covering the sanctuary of the synagogue and the people. That veil tore into two. giving us access to the sanctuary, giving us access to God. And this is what we're celebrating. The death of Jesus is not an annihilation. His death is salvation. His death is salutary, even. His death gives us hope and life.
All right. So, Father, if one is to sum all this, the victory of the cross, it means that today, Good Friday, is not that of mourning, but
Yes.
that of celebration.
Yeah, to an extent, because we are hoping that he who died did not die and die away. He died in order to give us access to the Father. And while dying, he summed up. You remember that the posture on the cross, he spread his two arms and he was suspended between heaven and earth. These are symbolic. You know, the Jews, they were crucifying Jesus like a criminal. The cross was not a good thing among the Jews. It was made for the outlaws, for people who are criminals. So they wanted to criminalize Jesus. They gave him all kinds of allegations. But while they were trying to humiliate him, they enthroned him. They lifted him high. They suspended him between heaven and earth. And that is his perfect place. He is our go-between. He is standing between God and humanity.
The perfect mediator.
A perfect mediator. So when he spread his arms, he embraced humanity in reconciliation. While they were trying to crucify him, to spread his arms in that agony, and they felt that this was his end, he embraced humanity. He gave man hope. He embraced us in our tribulations, in our discomforts, in our challenges. He gathered us up like a hen will gather the chicks and gave us an opportunity to meet with the Father.
All right. Thank you, Father. Let us descend from the word of theology to the word of humans now. Yeah. And looking at the silence of Christ, before his accusers and all that, does that teach us anything in particular, especially speaking to restaurants in a world where everyone feels entitled and the need to shout to be heard?
Yeah, let me also, before I talk about the silence of Jesus in his trials, he was not silent throughout, of course. But you remember also the personality of Joseph, the foster father of Jesus Christ. If you read the Bible very well, you will never hear where Joseph said a word.
And why was that?
Yeah, because he was a man of silence.
Okay.
And I teach people that when you learn the act of silence, you'll be hearing God. Do you know that all the actions taken by Joseph were inspired? The time he was told to take on Mary as his wife, it was in the dream. When, of course, Jesus was found in the temple, he did not say anything. In silence. In silence, a devout heart makes advances, makes progress towards God. And that was the personality of Joseph. To an extent, Jesus also, even when Pilate was, interrogating him, he did not say much, because he knew why he was. So if you know your mission, and if you know that God is with you, there is no point making so much efforts in defending yourself. If God is with you, sometimes we talk and we defend ourselves as if we can do it on our own. But Jesus knew that God has planned for him. He spoke at the appropriate moments, and there was no point defending himself because they knew the truth. They were just crucifying him out of envy, especially the aristocrats. They felt that he was so overbearing, that he was making claims that he was the Son of God, which he is, but they didn't see it. It was the centurion who, at the foot of the cross, having witnessed everything that happened, that made that conclusion. Truly, this man is the Son of God. And that's it. Sometimes we make so much noise thinking that we are to be heard. But sometimes our silence speaks more. And that is also God, who speaks in silence. In silence, God talks to us. But because we are living in a noisy world, and you remember Samuel when he was called. Samuel went to his master Eli, thinking that he was the one calling him. But he did not know that it was God calling him. Because we are living in a world that is noisy. We want to tell God, wait, I want to talk. And we don't allow God to speak to us. And that's why we are missing a lot of spiritual gifts in the world today. Because we talk much and listen less.
We talk much and listen less. And Christ here was telling us rather than
silence. However, there are some situations where you need to speak up. Especially now that Christians are suffering in various places, now that people are passing through challenges, now that people are passing through evils in our society, there we are supposed to live in plenty, but we are living in penury. It behooves the religious leaders and all of us to shout, to make noise. Now, when we talk about silence, we talk about silence from the point of view of Jesus' trials. He spoke, he did not keep quiet throughout the trials. He spoke at moments and clarified himself, but he did not go about arguing with those who were persecuting him. He made his points, and his points were pointed. But then, in this world, in our world, in Nigeria today, where we are suffering, where people are, where a man could take what belongs to all and embezzle, there is need for us to shout and make noise. And that's the appropriate moment to make noise.
All right. Thank you for that. But looking at Good Friday from the institutional aspect, we could say that Good Friday is a story of institutional failure, a legal system, and a religious elite conspiring against truth. And relating it to our own world, how should faithfuls respond when they see, Friday, of injustice, suffering happening in our own institutions today?
That's what I just said now. We are living in a world where people are suffering. We have the reality of suffering in our world. People are passing through things. People are suffering. People are finding it difficult to feed. So, as Christians, we cannot just be quiet when these things are happening, because as Christians, we are not living in a world that is different from others. We are living in the same world. We are experiencing the same thing. So it is necessary that we also stand out and also let people know that what they are doing, that they are not doing it well. For instance, our political leaders. And it is not just restricted to the political leaders. We also talk about religious leaders. We talk about the money-driven nature of evangelization today. That people are no longer interested in the message that they are sent to do. People are interested in the money, the monetary dimension of the mission of Christ. And this is so appalling. And that's why we cannot speak up when we are supposed to speak up. In a society that, will always go to bed with the politicians, the religious leaders can no longer talk, because when you observe the table etiquette, you don't talk while you are eating. And that's why I continue to maintain that religious leaders should not be bedmates with politicians. We can work in collaboration. We can work in company, but we should not be bedmates. We should draw a line so that when we want to speak prophetically, we will not be restricted by anything. These politicians, they have a way of muzzling up the religious leaders with money, with gifts, And because we are living in a world that everybody wants to be comfortable, and that's what I will also tell the religious leaders. Christianity is not about comfort. Or you are a minister of God, you should not live in comfort. And what I mean by comfort here is that you should not desire comfort. If it comes, fine, but it should not be your desire. We are to preach Jesus Christ, and to preach Jesus Christ does not come with so much comfort. So you have to stand out. Even in times of sorrow, in times of challenges, you need to speak out. Even when you know that your interests are not represented, you speak out, even against yourself and against what you stand for. You should be able to speak out in order to give consolation to those who are out there. Presently, people are shouting, let the religious leaders come out and lead us in a protest against the political leaders. And many people cannot do it because there are people who are already immersed in these political intrigues. So you can no longer do it because already you cannot bite the hand that feeds you. But if you are distanced, you could talk prophetically. You could administer your office. You could say this thing is not good. Like the killings going on in the north. On a Palm Sunday when people are acclaiming Jesus the King and people are slaughtered. And there is no bold statement by the political leaders. And some of our religious leaders are not even talking about it. So it is appalling. And we are also using this opportunity to issue a warning that this is not good. Yes, Christianity preaches peace and tolerance, but we cannot, because of that, allow our Christians to be dying anyhow. Nobody has the monopoly of violence. And because Christianity teaches peace and tolerance, we should not, because of that, make them to suffer, kill them at will, and all of that. So there is need for us to also imitate Jesus, and then for us, religious leaders, to speak prophetically and also tell truth to power. Speak truth to power.
Thank you very much, Father. But looking at, we're in a world that wants to celebrate. We're always in a hurry for celebration. And that celebration is way ahead on Sunday. But I want to ask, is it dangerous spiritually and psychologically to bypass the solemnity and the waiting period of Good Friday?
Easter Sunday cannot come without Good Friday. The sufferings, the passion, the crucifixion, the death of Jesus leads to Easter Sunday. So you cannot jump this reality. And this reality is here with us. This today we are celebrating. Today, all those who are above 18 to 60 years are obliged to fast. Especially unless you are in the hospital or you have a particular sickness, you are not supposed to fast. But from this period, you are supposed to fast. So it is now left for us to understand that this Good Friday and the celebration of today is introduces us to the Easter Sunday. And it's also a sign that suffering is an inescapable part of human existence. That Jesus himself suffered. He accepted the suffering. And he died trying to save humanity. Any Christian church that is telling you that suffering is not necessary is telling you a lie. And that's why in the Catholic Church today, the image of Jesus is always on the cross. To tell you that this is a necessary accompaniment of the human person. That suffering is a reality in our world. The master whom we are looking up to suffered. And because of that, you have to suffer. Yes, people will say, Jesus has come to take away our sorrows and take away our sufferings. Yes, good. But he has said, take up your cross and follow me. So it's an indication that as you have become a Christian, you have to get ready to suffer in order to imitate your master. If you must imitate Jesus, then this is what Jesus passed through. You must imitate it. So Good Friday is necessary. And there is always a Good Friday in the life of a Christian.
Sorry.
Yes.
There is always
a Good Friday
in the life of a Christian.
That Good Friday is that moment where people betray you. That moment where people castigate you. That moment where people do not understand you. That moment where people misinterpret you and misjudge you. This is your own Good Friday. How did Jesus react? He forgave those who condemned him. He even gave life to those who were condemned with him. He even forgave those who offended him. He even handed over his mother to John, and John to the mother. John chapter 19, verse 19. The handing over of the son to the mother to the son. So even while he was dying, forgiving people, he was giving life, he was bringing people into paradise. That exactly is what a Christian should do. Forgive your offenders. Don't encourage them in evil, but forgive those who have offended you. Pray for your enemies and those who do not wish you well. These are the injunctions of Jesus. And this is what is happening today. That he died in order to give us life. A Christian will always find the salutary and the salutary dimension of his suffering. And this is what Jesus is teaching us today.
All right. Thank you very much for that. I was going to ask that you speak to Nigerian leaders and politicians, but with what you've already said to them, I don't think that there will be a better way to put it. But let's talk to the viewer who is sitting at home right now watching us, and is feeling that their circumstances, they are overwhelmed by their own circumstances. What should we be telling them on a day like this?
Yes, you know, when we get into some of these celebrations, we do not do them because we want to do what others are doing, or we want to do a yearly thing. You know, every year there is Easter, there is Lent, and all of that. It is not just a sedentary recitation of things. I want us to go into the real meaning of what we're celebrating. For instance, yesterday, Jesus instituted the priesthood and the Eucharist. What does it say to us? And what does it mean to us? It means, for the Catholics, that you are receiving the body and blood of Christ himself. Christ himself, he is substantially and really present in the Eucharist. And because of that, a Christian should embrace Jesus in the Eucharist and ask him for help. And also to a Christian, this period is a period for sober reflection. To reflect on your life. To reflect on how far you have gone. Especially since we started this Lenten period from Ash Wednesday. How far have you gone with your Christian life? What are those things you accept as coming from God? What are those things you need to do as a Christian? So it's an important moment in our lives, an important moment for all of us to begin to think about our lives. This man who died for me, what will I give him in return? This man who endured sufferings, who endured challenges, who endured everything, what can I give him in return? He's not asking for that. He's not asking for much. He's just asking us to be good Christians, imitating Jesus Christ. Learn how to forgive one another. Be a good Christian. Always think about the good of the other person. Learn forgiveness. You always be ready to sacrifice your time, your resources, even your power, in order to have people to be comfortable.
All right. Thank you very much for that. But lest we forget, there are youths, especially the young Nigerians, who are tempted by get-rich-quick schemes. What do we tell them on this day?
Yeah, just like in Christmas period, you want to impress people, you want to impress your community, you want to impress your parents, you want to impress your friends, you know, and you want to do things that are not good in order to get money. This is not what we are doing. Christ did not do that. We are talking about a period where we are supposed to be sober, a period where we are supposed to become close to God, and that's exactly what we are doing. As a young person, you look at this period as an opportunity for you to reflect on your life, on the sacrifices you are making, on the small work you are doing. You reflect on the success, because the success of Easter cannot be told without the pain of Good Friday, because they are interconnected and interrelated and intertwined. So we need to understand this, that we need to pass through certain things before we get to success. Success sometimes can come accidentally, especially from people who come from rich families. But the proper pathway to success is also this narrow path. Jesus says it. The narrow path leads to life. So if you must be successful, pay attention to your time of suffering, your time of learning, if you like, and always gravitate towards your success with sober heart, trying to imitate Jesus at this period. It's not a time to show off. It's not a time to eat food so much. It's a time to forgive one another. It's a time to appreciate your neighbors and appreciate the parents, appreciate people, but not a time to, excessive drinking and excessive inordinate behaviors. This is not the period. It's a time to think about the Savior who died and resurrected for us.
Thank you very much for that. But finally, before I let you go, just the last one, to those of us who have followed us all through this Lenten period, today culminates into our graduation, especially in this school of Father Ambrose of Odile. What are we telling them?
Yeah, well, it has been a journey. 40 days of preparation, 40 days of journey moving towards Jesus Christ, trying to learn him, the different dimensions of Jesus Christ. It's also an opportunity for us to thank God that we have the grace to actually follow through this Lenten period, because sometimes within the course of the Lenten period you can even forget what we are into, and you get indulge into excessive entertainment and all of that. But as we are coming towards the end of the Lenten period and going to the resurrection, Easter morning, we want to continue to pray that the Lord Jesus Christ will give us the grace to be able to imitate him more, to be able to, insert ourselves in his own personality. Jesus Christ is the reason for the season. And because of that, we need to learn from him. We need to ask him for graces and blessings. We need to, continuously ask him to help us, to assist us in, gravitating towards all that is happening. So it is a period that we must thank God for everything. And it's also a period that we should not stop. The virtues we have learned within the Lenten period, we must not discard them. They should accompany us throughout the rest of the year.
All right. Thank you very much. And that's where we'll draw the curtain today on the insight. But first, Father, we are so grateful for your time, the efforts, the impartation on the insight throughout this month of Lent. We are so grateful. Thank you very much. And you, viewers who have been with us, you would agree that today marks the high point of that education as we graduate into Easter. We invite you, keep faith with us as we now invite Father Fodile to continue with us as we delve into other issues beyond the Lent. And let us know what you think about the conversation so far with the hashtag The Insight, all at Aneke on YouTube and Facebook. Till come your way, same time, same station from Monday. Stay with us. I am your host, Uche Osai. Bye-bye.
Morning headlines before you step out. Midday updates while you walk. Evening analysis when the day winds down. Wherever life takes you, Aneke TV keeps you informed, connected, and ahead. Aneke TV. Move with the world.
The eagles stand as a majestic symbol of strength, clarity, and vision. Its ability to soar above storms signifies resilience, while its shaped sight represents focus. This is why many nations, including Nigeria, use the eagle as an emblem of nation pride. Eagles do not fear challenges, they embrace them. They fly higher when the winds become strong, rising above obstacles rather than avoiding them. This teaches us that problems are not barriers, but stepping stones for those who dare. To live like an eagle is to stay focused, courageous, and disciplined. It is to see opportunities where others see only difficulties. The sky is not your limit, it is your launch pad.
Seven days, countless moments, stories that shape the week. From decisions in the corridors of power to developments affecting everyday lives. From moments of challenge to stories of resilience and progress. This is where the week comes into focus. Week in retrospect, only on Aneke TV.
Good Friday in Christian belief is a sacred remembrance of the crucifixion and death of Jesus Christ. It represents the central mystery of the Christian faith, that through suffering and sacrifice, humanity is offered redemption and reconciliation with God. Good Friday signifies sacrificial love. Christians believe that Jesus willingly gave his life for the forgiveness of sins, making the cross not just an instrument of death, but a symbol of divine mercy and grace. It also represents atonement, the idea that Christ's death bridges the gap between humanity and God. In this understanding, justice and mercy meet at the cross. Sin is acknowledged, yet forgiveness is made possible. Spiritually, Good Friday reflects humility and obedience. Jesus' submission, even unto death, is seen as the ultimate example of surrender to God's will. It redefines power not as force or control, but as love expressed through sacrifice. Finally, it represents hope through suffering, though marked by pain and sorrow. Good Friday is not the end of the story. It points towards restoration and renewal, reminding believers that darkness can give way to light and death can lead to life. In essence, Good Friday is a profound declaration that love, even in suffering, has the power to redeem, restore, and transform.
My name is Dr. Emmanuel Ihechi Asonye. I am the CEO of Omenka App LLC. I created Omenka App for the preservation of Igbo language and culture. Omenka App was established in New Mexico, and it is headquartered in Albuquerque, but currently we are also being registered in Nigeria. We have a website. We are also on social media, because my app is primarily for the Igbo community. In 2006, something significant happened among the Igbo community. UNESCO predicted that Igbo language was going to go into extinction, and that was because Igbo people are one of the most traveled people in the whole world. So the more children are born outside of Igbo land, the more they get disconnected. The app is on iOS, it's also on Android. Access the website and download the app from there. And over 2,000 people are using the app right now. But there's an app that will teach you about Igbo culture, Igbo people. We have Igbo poems, we have riddles and jokes, we have Igbo proverbs, then we have the word section where you are going to search Igbo words. Whatever word that you can find in English, you want to make sure it is found in the app in Igbo language. And I encourage everybody from their communities, you can do what we're doing in Omenka app with your own language and with your own culture. Do not allow your culture or your language to die.
Good afternoon and welcome to News Across the Country on Aneke TV. I'm Good Hope Chukwuma. Headlines. Adamawa Governor calls for compassion during Easter celebrations. Abia State Police Command dismantles criminal networks in major crackdown. Castina records new fatal laser fever cases as national outbreak worsens. Details of the news. The Inter-Party Advisory Council, IPAC, has warned the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, over what it describes as actions capable of creating avoidable instability in Nigeria's political environment. The council criticized the alleged premature removal of names such as Senator David Mack and former Osun State Governor Ogbeni Rolf Aregbesola from the Commission's official portal amid internal disputes in the African Democratic Congress. IPAC expressed concern that such administrative actions could set a dangerous precedent and undermine public confidence in the neutrality of the electoral umpire. It warned that perceived inconsistencies in handling party leadership matters may weaken trust in the electoral process. The council also faulted the proposed nationwide voter validation exercise, describing its timing as inappropriate given ongoing political party verifications and compliance with the Electoral Act. It urged broader stakeholder consultation before implementation. IPAC National Publicity Secretary Comrade Ebola Wale Martins also condemned the recent killings in Jos, Plateau State, describing them as a threat to national unity, while urging security agencies to identify and prosecute perpetrators and their sponsors. Governor Madu Fintiri of Adamawa State has urged Nigerians to remain resilient in the face of prevailing economic challenges, assuring that current hardships are temporary. In his Easter message, the governor likened the nation's situation to the biblical suffering and resurrection narrative. In a statement issued through his chief press secretary, Washi Wonosiko, Governor Fintiri called on citizens to reflect the values of sacrifice, love, and compassion associated with Easter season. He emphasized the need for increased support for vulnerable members of society. He stressed that religious observance should translate into practical acts of kindness and community service, noting that collective responsibility remains essential to development. The governor further called for unity and peace across Adamawa State, expressing optimism that the country will overcome its present difficulties through shared commitment and discipline. The Anglican Bishop of Enugu Diocese, the Right Reverend Samuel Ike, has called on Nigerians to embrace repentance, sacrifice, and moral renewal as Christians mark Good Friday. He delivered the message at St. Paul's Chapel, Bishop's Court, Enugu. Bishop Ike said Good Friday represents the sacrifice of Jesus Christ and serves as a reminder of humility, love, and redemption. He urged citizens to reflect on the significance of the crucifixion. The cleric emphasized that national transformation depends on integrity, accountability, and rejection of corruption and injustice. He called on leaders and citizens to uphold moral responsibility. He further encouraged Christians to pray for peace, unity, and forgiveness during the Easter period, noting that moral rebirth is essential for national progress. The Commissioner of Police in Enugu State, Mr. Bitrus Giwa, has ordered the deployment of personnel and operational assets across the state ahead of the Easter celebrations. He also congratulated Christians on the occasion of the 2026 Easter season. In a statement, the police command said officers have been deployed to churches, motor parks, highways, and recreational centers to ensure security and prevent criminal activity during the festivities. The commissioner directed area commanders and divisional police officers to intensify patrols, intelligence gathering, and interagency collaboration. He warned that no security lapses would be tolerated. The command urged residents to remain vigilant, obey traffic regulations, and report suspicious movements to security agencies through designated emergency lines. The Abia State Police Command says it has arrested 226 suspects in a major statewide crackdown on crime within the first quarter of 2025. Commissioner of Police Danladi Issa disclosed this while briefing journalists in Omaya. He said the suspects are linked to offenses including armed robbery, kidnapping, cultism, child trafficking, and fraud. According to him, 142 criminal cases were investigated during the period. The command also recovered 46 firearms, ammunition, and several stolen vehicles, motorcycles, and tricycles allegedly used for criminal activities across the state. CP Issa said the operations have led to a noticeable reduction in violent crimes, adding that many suspects have been charged to court while others remain under investigation. Residents of Bagadaza community in Gombe State are protesting a 6-month power outage despite receiving electricity bills throughout the period. The crisis is linked to a repeatedly faulty transformers serving the area. Community representative Gaius Lamela said residents have contributed large sums on multiple locations for repairs, but the transformer continues to break down after restoration. He said a fresh demand of 500,000 naira has further worsened tensions. Residents say the blackout has severely affected livelihoods, increasing the cost of living as food preservation and small businesses have been disrupted. They also claim of continued billing by the electricity distribution company despite no supply. Officials of the Just Electricity Distribution Company say they are awaiting directives from management to resolve the issue, while residents continue to demand urgent intervention. The Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC, has filed a motion seeking final forfeiture of 57 properties alleged linked to former Attorney General of the Federation, Abubakar Malami. The properties are valued at about 213.2 billion naira. EFCC counsel Jibrin Okuteba told the Federal High Court in Abuja that the respondents failed to justify ownership of assets, which are spread across several states, including Abuja, Kano, Kebbi, and Kaduna. The commission alleged a significant disparity between Malami's total official earning of about 89.6 million naira and the value of the properties, added that some buildings lacked proper permits. Justice Joyce Abdulmalik has fixed April 21st, 2026 for hearing of the motion seeking final forfeiture of the assets to the federal government. Gunmen have killed the traditional ruler of Ishinkwo Autonomous Community, Eze Josephat Ikewu in Ebonyi State. The attack occurred in the early hours of Wednesday, April 1st, 2026 in Onitsha local government area. Reports indicate that the assailants invaded the monarch's residence and shot him dead in his bedroom in the presence of his wife before escaping. The incident has triggered panic across the community. The killing is the fourth of its kind involving traditional rulers in Ebonyi State within 3 years, raising concerns over rising insecurity in the region. Police authorities say investigations are ongoing while residents and community leaders are calling for urgent security intervention to prevent further attacks. The Department of State Services, DSS, has arrested a 25-year-old woman, Nafisa Usman, in Kano State for alleged involvement in arms trafficking. She was intercepted at a motor park with 220 rounds of live ammunition concealed in bags of gari. Security sources say the suspect was acting on intelligence reports which led to her arrest during a delivery operation. She was also found with a substantial amount of cash. During interrogation, she allegedly claimed the ammunition was supplied through a network involving an unidentified military officer in Lafia, Nasarawa State, and intermediaries coordinating transfer across states. The DSS says investigations are ongoing to uncover the full supply chain and identify all individuals involved in alleged arms trafficking network. You're watching Aneke TV news across the country. Remember, you can follow us on Facebook, X, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube, all at Aneke TV. Now, a quick reminder of major developments in the news. Adamawa Governor calls for compassion as Easter celebrations continue. Abia State Police Command reaffirms crackdown on criminal networks. Coming up shortly, Castina records fresh fatal laser fever cases as national outbreak intensifies. We'll be right back shortly. 7 days, countless moments, stories that shape the week. From decisions in the corridors of power to developments affecting everyday lives. From moments of challenge to stories of resilience and progress. This is where the week comes into focus. Week in retrospect, only on Aneke TV. Welcome back. Castina State has confirmed a third case of Lassa fever following recent deaths linked to the outbreak. Health authorities at the Federal Teaching Hospital, Castina, says a female patient is currently receiving treatment after her husband died from the disease. Medical officials report that the patient is in stable condition and responding to treatment. However, clinicians warn of increasing severity in current infections across affected regions. Public health experts note a rising case fatality rate, estimated at nearly 25% this year. That's a significant increase compared to previous outbreak patterns. Authorities have urged residents to maintain strict hygiene and seek immediate medical attention for persistent fever symptoms as surveillance efforts continue across the state. The Pharmaceutical Council of Nigeria has shut down 131 pharmaceutical and patent medicine outlets in Nasarawa State over regulatory violations. The enforcement exercise followed a 3-day inspection operation conducted across multiple locations. According to the council, the closures included wholesalers, community pharmacies, and patent medicine shops. One pharmacist was also arrested for allegedly obstructing regulatory officials during inspection duties. Officials reported widespread infractions, including absence of qualified pharmacists and operation without valid licenses. Karu local government area accounted for the majority of the violations. The council has advised Nigerians to patronize only licensed medicine outlets, warning that substandard drug handlings poses serious risk to public health. Taraba State has launched a maternal health initiative aimed at reducing maternal mortality through community mentorship. The program produced 20 trained Big Sisters selected from 20 wards across Lau and Zing local government areas. The initiative, supported by development partners, focuses on reproductive health education, contraception awareness, and gender-based violence prevention. Officials say it targets vulnerable adolescent girls. At the graduation ceremony, health authorities said the mentor will serve as community-based educators and referral points for health services. They are expected to address misinformation surrounding maternal health. The beneficiaries have been deployed to their communities to support safe motherhood campaigns and improve access to accurate health information. Kogi State has recorded a decline in malaria prevalence, dropping from 16% in 2021 to 8.9% in 2025. According to recent health data, the state now falls within the low transmission category. The State Commissioner for Health attributed the development to sustained government interventions and strengthened healthcare delivery systems. Health workers across communities were also commended. In addition, the state has launched the renovation of 728 public schools under the Agile project to improve learning conditions. Officials say the intervention targets infrastructure renewal in the education sector. Authorities state that combining health and education reforms is part of a broader strategy to improve long-term socio-economic outcomes in the state. Confusion has emerged over crude oil supply levels to the Dangote Petroleum Refinery, while reports indicated increased allocations. Refinery officials say current supply remains below expected levels. The refinery, with a capacity of 350,000 barrels per day, reportedly requires about 19.77 million barrels monthly, but is receiving significantly less. Officials attribute this to shortfalls in domestic crude supply. The company has raised concerns over reliance on imported crude, which it says contribute to higher fuel prices in the domestic market. Industry stakeholders continue to debate the supply gap. Energy analysts warn that global oil market pressures could worsen inflation if supply challenges persist, urging coordinated policy intervention. The federal government has unveiled a national oil palm development strategy aimed at boosting Nigeria's global market share to 10% within 6 years. The plan also targets long-term self-sufficiency. The initiative includes improved seedlings, expanded access to processing facilities, and structured value chain framework. A new regulatory council and development fund are also proposed. Officials say the strategy is designed to scale up production significantly and attract private sector investment into the agricultural subsector. Nigeria aims to replicate successful models from Asia. The program is also projected to lift about 2 million citizens out of poverty through expanded agricultural productivity and job creation. The Nigerian Football Federation has confirmed the Super Eagles' participation in the Unity Cup scheduled to hold in London from May 26th to 30th. The team will compete alongside Jamaica, Zimbabwe, and India. Nigeria enters the tournament as defending champions following a penalty shootout victory over Jamaica in the previous edition. The competition will feature semi-finals and a final. India's inclusion marks its debut in the tournament, drawing increased international and diaspora attention. Organizers expect strong attendance across venues in London. The Super Eagles are expected to use the tournament to strengthen squad cohesion and integrate new players ahead of upcoming international engagements. The Nigeria Football Federation has appointed Akeem Ishola Bushari as the new head coach of the national under-17 women's team, the Flamingos. He replaces Bankole Olowo Okore. Busari, who previously coached Pesetas Queens of Ibadan, is expected to lead the team into the 2026 FIFA Under-17 Women's World Cup qualifying campaign. The appointment comes ahead of his second-round qualifier against either Niger or Guinea. Preparations are expected to commence immediately. The NFF says the new coach will be tasked with maintaining Nigeria's strong performance record in women's youth football. Nollywood actor Yul Edochie has called on Africans to preserve their cultural identity amid increasing global influence. He made the remarks in a recent social media statement. Edochie stressed the importance of maintaining indigenous traditions, languages, and belief systems. He warned against what he described as cultural erosion. The actor has consistently advocated for a return to traditional values and the promotion of Igbo heritage. He also criticized the decline of native language use among younger generations. He urged Africans in the diaspora to reconnect with their cultural roots, describing identity preservation as essential to continental development. And now to end the news across the country, here are the main points again. The governor of Adamawa State has called on residents to embrace compassion, unity, and peaceful coexistence as Christians mark the Easter season across the state and beyond. He urged citizens to use the period for reflection, forgiveness, and renewed commitment to harmony in their communities. In his Easter message, the governor emphasized the importance of love and sacrifice as core values of the season, noting that they remain essential for building stable and progressive society. He also encouraged religious leaders to continue promoting peace and moral values among their followers. The Abia State Police Command has confirmed the dismantling of several criminal networks following a coordinated statewide security operation targeting armed robbery and related crimes. The command says the operation led to multiple arrests and recovery of suspected stolen items. According to the Commissioner of Police, Abia State Command, the crackdown was part of ongoing efforts to rid the state of criminal elements and strengthen public safety. He added that intelligence-led policing played a key role in the success of the operation. Katsina State has confirmed fresh fatal cases linked to Lassa fever as Nigeria continues to battle a worsening nationwide outbreak of the disease. Health authorities say the latest cases have heightened concerns over the spread and severity of infections. Medical officials in the state report that suspected patients are currently receiving treatment and are under close observation, while surveillance efforts have been intensified across affected communities to contain further transmission. That's news across the country at noon. For breaking news and eyewitness reports, call 070-3043-7110 or follow us on Facebook and YouTube at Aneke TV. On behalf of the producer Chidi Masowa and the entire news team, I'm Good Hope Chukuma, thanking you for watching. Enjoy the rest of your day.
My name is Dr. Emmanuel Ihechi Asonye. I am the CEO of Omenka App LLC. I created Omenka App for the preservation of Igbo language and culture. Omenka App was established in New Mexico and it is headquartered in Albuquerque, but currently we are also being registered in Nigeria. We have a website. We are also on social media because my app is primarily for the Igbo community. In 2006, something significant happened among the Igbo community. UNESCO predicted that Igbo language was going to go into extinction, and that was because Igbo people are one of the most traveled people in the whole world. So the more children are born outside of Igbo land, the more they get disconnected. The app is on iOS, it's also on Android. Access the website and download the app from there. And over 2,000 people are using the app right now. But there's an app that will teach you about Igbo culture, Igbo people. We have Igbo poems, we have riddles and jokes, we have Igbo proverbs, then we have the word section where you are going to search Igbo words. Whatever word that you can find in English, you want to make sure It is found in the app in Igbo language. And I encourage everybody from their communities, you can do what we're doing in Omenka app with your own language and with your own culture. Do not allow your culture or your language to die.
In a world that never stands still, where stories break in seconds and moments shape history, one station keeps you connected to your nation, to the continent, to the world.
From breaking news to powerful stories, from business and politics to culture, lifestyle and entertainment, we inform, we inspire, we keep you ahead.
This is more than television. This is your window to everywhere that matters.
Aneke TV. Move with the world.
Good Friday, in Christian belief, is a sacred remembrance of the crucifixion and death of Jesus Christ. It represents the central mystery of the Christian faith, that through suffering and sacrifice, humanity is offered redemption and reconciliation with God. Good Friday signifies sacrificial love. Christians believe that Jesus willingly gave his life for the forgiveness of sins, making the cross not just an instrument of death, but a symbol of divine mercy and grace. It also represents atonement, the idea that Christ's death bridges the gap between humanity and God. In this understanding, justice and mercy meet at the cross. Sin is acknowledged, yet forgiveness is made possible. Spiritually, Good Friday reflects humility and obedience. Jesus' submission, even unto death, is seen as the ultimate example of surrender to God's will. It redefines power not as force or control, but as love expressed through sacrifice. Finally, it represents hope through suffering, though marked by pain and sorrow. Good Friday is not the end of the story. It points towards restoration and renewal, reminding believers that darkness can give way to light and death can lead to life. In essence, Good Friday is a profound declaration that love, even in suffering, has the power to redeem, restore, and transform.
Every second, the world changes, markets rise. Leaders speak, stories unfold. To keep up, you don't just need news. You need clarity. You need speed. You need perspective.
That's why Aneke TV brings you the global pulse. Accurate, reliable, right when it matters most. Aneke TV. Move with the world.
Nigeria, a land of striking contrast, where nature unfolds into dominant ecological identities. The lush southern forest and the vast northern savanna belts, stretching from the humid Atlantic coast to the dry fringes of the Sahara. Nigeria's vegetation is shaped by climate, rainfall, and human activity. Broadly, it is divided into the southern forest zones and the northern savanna belts. In the south, abundant rainfall gives rise to tropical rainforest, thick, multi-layered ecosystems, rich in biodiversity, towering trees from a continuous canopy, sheltering countless plants and animal species. These forests are not only ecological treasures, but also economic lifelines supporting agriculture and livelihoods. Closer to the coast, fresh water and mangrove swamps dominate. Here, water and land intertwine, creating unique habitats adapted to flooding and salinity. The mangrove forests of the Niger Delta are among the largest in Africa, vital for coastal protection and marine life. Moving northward, forests gradually give way to the Guinea savanna, a mix of tall grasses and scattered trees. This region supports farming and livestock, forming Nigeria's agricultural heartland. Farther north lies the Sudan savanna, where rainfall decreases and vegetation becomes sparser. Life here adapts to longer dry seasons and harsher conditions. At the northern edge, the Sahel savanna marks the transition to the desert. Vegetation is sparse, and survival depends on resilience of both people and nature. However, Nigeria's vegetation faces growing threats. Deforestation in the south and desertification in the north are reshaping the landscape. Population growth, agriculture, and climate change continue to exert pressure on these fragile ecosystems. Yet, hope remains. Across the country, conservation efforts are taking root, from reforestation projects to sustainable land management practices, from the dense forests of the south to the open savannas of the north. Nigeria's vegetation tells a story of diversity, resilience, and responsibility. A story that calls on all of us to protect the natural heritage